Okay, we're gonna go ahead and call the meeting to order since it's 7 o'clock. Did anybody hear from Owen Fringray or Tom Lavelle about not being here tonight?
Well, Tom might be still in Australia with his
Out of
family.
town, okay.
Out of town with his family, so.
Okay,
Supposed to zoom in.
Long commute?
We were gonna try and zoom him in, but
Yeah.
I don't know what happened.
I don't remember.
He
That's
didn't,
what we had discussed, was him
Right.
zooming in.
right, but
And I remember saying it'd be some off hours for him to be able to zoom
Oh,
into
yeah,
us,
for
but
sure.
then he didn't,
that was what he said he was gonna do.
yeah, and we weren't even sure that he actually went yet or not.
Okay.
So,
I think he did. I didn't see his truck, his house. The observation.
Well, let's go ahead and call, introductions. Sandra, if you'll start, please.
Sandra Jones?
Robert Kelly.
John Moran,
John Decker,
Michelle King,
Thomas Butkevich.
Jeffrey Morrison.
Michael Kelly.
thank you.
Carol Martin.
And Carol Martin from the school board, yes.
All right, quick announcement. If you're in the audience, please make sure you sign in if you haven't. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is Kathy the school board rep tonight?
Carol, yeah,
Carol.
she's this, Carol Martin is the school board rep.
Okay, yeah.
Did everybody take a peek at the minutes from last week?
There was only half of one.
There wasn't enough.
There was only the town part.
That's true, yeah.
All right,
So I
I-
did look at them, but just
I
didn't
looked
see
at it
the
too.
other half of them. I think we should just wait until we get the other half of them.
I agree.
Next meeting. All right. Okay, so the purpose of our meeting here tonight is to go over the 2023 town budget and public hearing. I'm not sure how we've done it in the past.
well, we just had a meeting on
I know,
Thursday last week,
yep,
so the changes that were discussed at that meeting have been made.
okay,
Any questions about that from the board? We have John here, I'm here
thank you.
to answer any, but the changes made, the 4% was reached. The numbers haven't changed on our behalf.
Okay,
So there's,
Public hearing is to go through the budget so that people in the audience can understand what's in the budget and ask questions.
thank you.
John, is there any difference between what
We're
we
getting
had
there.
last week where we saw our recommendations and your actions and then this one? Are these,
The newer copy you have here,
yeah,
That we got today.
the one you got today, is with all the changes.
Updated revenues.
There you go.
Did you make any changes since last?
I wasn't at that meeting, so
Have any changes been made from?
Updated revenues, only updated revenues.
Okay.
Do we have any way to post there so that the audience can see what we're talking about?
We gave them copies, they all should.
I know, but all of them are sitting there. Are you all happy with what you have?
it has changed slightly. Wait, no,
I guess you just have to do the math
Oh,
to.
look at
to-
it.
I changed the titles of the buildings, Tom.
what?
I changed the titles of the buildings.
Thank you.
I did change that.
Okay, if everybody's satisfied, I'm fine, but I just wanted everybody to be able to be comfortable with what they were hearing.
So we can just go through the section.
Yeah, so this reflects.
Yeah, If I may, there are three things tonight, the budget, the warrant, and the revenues
Okay,
for the public hearing.
so if we wanna start on the first page,
So, we could start on the warrant. Start with the
you
warrant.
need to open the public
are
hearing.
you,
Oh, yeah.
do you wanna say anything?
No, you just have to open the public hearing.
Okay, thank you. I don't, we're taking our time here, I didn't know if you're in a hurry or something. All right, well, let's open it up to public hearing then.
So what we can do is we can go through the warrant articles. And then, so the first one's the
You wanna
budget
just start? Go
anyway,
ahead and
so-
do it.
So, all right. So article, for lack of a numbering, we'll just go with Article A. Shall the town raise and appropriate as operating budget, not including approximations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately, the amount set forth on the budget posted with the warrant, or as amended by vote of the first session for the purposes set forth therein totaling 4 million, whatever the value is gonna be, what we decide today. Should this article be defeated, the default budget shall be $4,541,263 dollars, which is the same as last year, with certain adjustments required by previous action of the town or by law, or the governing body may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 40:13 X or 10 and 16. Take up the issue of revised operating budget only. The estimated tax impact is $3.08 per thousand of property validation. Assume that's close, whatever.
That's assuming the cap number of 4,842,866. If the budget committee goes lower than that, then that number would be revised.
So let me just go through these.
Yeah. So we'll just go through them. Page, does anybody have any questions on the first page?
Usually you read the totals by department and the
Okay.
Go to the department.
Executive department total, the proposed budget, $275,748. $225 less than well, that's what they made for the budget change, minus 225.
Do we wanna talk about the big movers in each one?
That's,
So,
I mean,
I got a quick question, John. The budget change is from the 2022 to 2023 budget, not the budget change that there was in it, right? That is the difference from
Yes,
from last year to this year, so.
okay,
yes, from the approved 22 to the proposed 23.
Right. Okay. I'll clarify that for everybody.
Same with the percent change.
Yep, thank you. Just to clarify. All right, so
Alright.
any questions in section 1? Section executive?
I think it's worth noting that the biggest decrease here is line 5, the merit compensation pool, which is how the town hands out raises during the year to employees of merit. That was originally slated to be, doesn't actually say on here.
5,000.
2022.
And that's an increase from last year. Before that, it was at 40. And we had suggested a $10,000 decrease to that. And then in the second to last Board of Selectmen meeting, based on revised revenues, they needed to reduce the total budget by $8,099, and they just decided to take it
From
out
the
of
merit
that
pool.
merit pool number.
Yep, and that was a discussion that we had with the board amongst ourselves, was there was other places we thought maybe it could be taken from, that the merit pool was maybe not something we wanted to pull $18,000. So that's something that we're discussing, so
I had something to say about that.
go for it.
I didn't know whether we were just going article to article or whether we're gonna go line by line through this. Obviously, we're in a high inflation year. Town employees, I think their salary increases are important. I think this is too much to cut out of here. Everybody in this room goes to the grocery store, we all squirm, we all twitch,
Yep.
we all sigh. I wouldn't say that those cuts would normally be off the table in any other year or any of that. But I think we should, as a board, we should attempt to maintain as much of that intact as possible.
A part of the merit pool.
Yep. When we hear from the select board, we hear from town departments and stuff like that. The main point I take away is it's very important to retain employees.
Right.
Everybody's, highway department's scared that people are gonna leave, police are scared that people are gonna leave, fire department, on down the line.
And we just hired the 3 new fire department employees, so
Yep.
now we're fully staffed, right?
Right.
which is
And
great,
retraining is the biggest expense too.
Which is
Keep
great.
turnovers early.
Yeah.
I mean, adds up.
because I know the chief has said in the past that they, like to steal our employees after they're all trained up, so.
I'm not saying that cuts would always be off the table or anything like that, but it does stand out to me. I think
It's
there's,
too much.
I think there's other cuts that we could find within this budget to maintain as much of those merit-based
So you're,
increases as possible.
you're looking to restore it to the 75 that it was before?
No,
No, we're looking to go back to what we had suggested as a consensus here when we met. We had a consensus that we could reduce it by 10,000, but I think that we feel 18,000 is too much of a reduction.
Yeah.
And I think that was kind of
Okay.
I think they needed to cut 8,000 from something, and that was a quick way to do it. And I think there's less disruptive places, you know.
go ahead and, what do you state your name and your address, please?
She can sit there as the Board of Selectmen,
Oh,
so
okay.
she's gonna be sitting there, so.
All right,
she's the chairman.
sounds good.
My name's Frank Roberto. I just wanna say that since the last meeting, we did an analysis of the salary increases over the past year. And we had 4% COLA for every employee, and we gave out raises. The select board did not refuse any of the salary requests, increase requests that came to us with the exception of one. And that one was an individual who had been with us for 1 month and wanted to play us for salary increase. Said basically they could get more money someplace else, and we said, go for it.
See you later.
Now, when you add up the 4% COLA and all of the salary increases, it came to about $60,000. So by reducing that line by 18, we are still well within the range of being able to give our employees the salaries that they deserve and to retain talent. So we didn't have that number last time we were here, but we've done that analysis. So we feel comfortable with that. We feel that we still can treat our employees.
What about moving forward in the previous year, like in the years coming, because with this number being down 18,000, I don't wanna see it keep getting cut, I don't wanna see that number getting bigger, like if anything, I wanna see that number getting smaller. If there's any part of the budget that I would wanna not reduce so much, would be the salaries of the employees and stuff, and if there is anywhere else that we can take from the budget,
So-
we're gonna consider it.
Remember, the salaries that you're looking in this budget right here have already represented the 4% we gave them and the 3%, we gave all the raises we gave everybody. That's already represented. This mark here, the merit compensation, is for next year when
Right.
employees come. So if next year, if every employee came and said, listen, I need a 3% raise, we have enough money here to give every single person that works for the town
The
a 3%
56,000,
raise.
56,900?
Every single one.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Well,
So,
if you guys
unless
think
you
it's
wanna give them
responsible.
more, I mean, again, I'm not offended, I'll spend the whole 56. But, you know, there is enough built in.
Sure. No,
to
I'm
give
just saying that that's
everybody
definitely
raise for
one of
next
our
year.
concerns, that's
Good to
all,
know,
so,
John. I wasn't
yeah,
aware
we
of-
didn't know that.
Wasn't aware of that.
So that's why we were at, Don, you know, as I said, you know, I think about 100 million things.
Right.
That is why, when the board talked about this, you know, we did the 18,318. The reason why it's an odd number was to get us right at 4%, right?
Yep.
You know, it was, that number is strategic for the reason of getting our number where we needed it to be.
Okay.
But we know there's enough left in there for that everybody next year, if needed, to come in. So there might be some employees next year that are getting promoted in the fire department, that are getting more, where they're gonna receive 5%, whatever, right? And some maybe are, there's still plenty in there, because we don't know if we lose an employee, well,
Then it's more.
just because he leaves for some reason, moves out of town, who knows what reason, you know? There's still more compensation. So
Okay.
we're very confident that everybody that might request a raise next year, that this
Gonna be able
number
to get one from that.
will be here. And I will be sitting there for this too, to watch
Okay.
that,
In
so.
past conversations, it just
It
seemed
didn't
more-
seem like that.
It seemed like there was more of a concern.
Right,
About
definitely.
retaining town.
No, for what we did this year, and all the money we gave out this year, which we needed to, which I'm very happy we did,
Yeah.
you know, I don't see that that much of an increase, because we did it already to jump that mark for the inflation. You know, that happened, and this all happened recently, so that's the reason why it was, and when you're putting the budget in, you're showing what you did last year, So you're gonna put that number up high because that's where
That's
it
what it was
was.
last year.
All right, well, thank you for alleviating some of our concerns.
Thank you.
I think another
Also
thing.
say, I think you want to mention about line 2, Tom, if you're gonna start handing out things.
Oh yeah, the Board of
thank you for that.
Selectmen graciously took a pay cut from 3,600 to 3,000, or what? Yeah, that's it, right? It's 3,600 to 3,000.
Yeah, for every individual, yeah, $600 each for every individual,
So that's great, and I think we noted that that was temporary, so that if
hopefully.
if we're not up against the tax cap next year, we can restore that.
Hopefully.
But it is,
That will be interesting to see.
it's a volunteer position. I don't think anybody on the board serves for the money, right? Yeah. It would not be, if you calculated your per hour wage, it would probably not be great. Another thing to note is line 7, printing expenses. That had a big decrease, and that's just in the number of town reports that were going to get printed. You'll notice there's cases of them sitting back there. I saw some in another room, so we have a lot of leftovers, and I think that's probably pretty smart, and everybody can just go grab a PDF now.
Does anybody else want to comment?
We should be looking at comments going down though, so if somebody has a thought for a comment on, way ahead, please wait till we get to there.
Yep.
Okay, this is meant for the public, so, I mean, if you guys have questions, just raise your hands.
Town clerk?
All right, the totals for the town clerk, our proposed budget, $88,159. That's a budget change, increase of $7,316 and 9% increase. Postage has increased.
And some of that gets refunded, I believe, like the fees and things, that's stuff that gets collected. It's not a big impact to the taxpayers.
No.
Elections,
Elections for the town. We're budgeted at $19,513. That's a decrease of $11,038. A 36.1% decrease. If anybody has anything to comment when I'm done speaking, just speak up. The financial admin department, the proposed budget is $107,865. It's a 0.2% decrease, $203.
so one thing we had discussed across a lot of these, the town is spending a lot of money on postage, and so ways to get into paperless billing would be great. I just went down and paid property tax bill, and it took all of about 20 seconds to get set up for paperless. I tell the tax collector my email address, and then she types it in the computer, and you get a little confirmation email, and then every tax bill, it saves the town $1. So I don't know if the select board can authorize a $1 incentive to get set up for paperless, but that would cost us nothing and be a one-time discount of $1. It might be enough incentive to get some people to switch.
Sure.
And that's done through Avatar. So there may be ways to export those email addresses and names and then use those for other things, if we have to do email delivery of things. Now, we've talked about postage and printing for the newsletter as well. And
When it
trimming
business
some
in
of that.
conscience for people just to do it paperless for their own personal reasons, say, hey, I'll do it when I go tomorrow morning, tomorrow afternoon for my tax.
Yeah, and I've always said it should be opt-in. No
Yep.
one should, no one should
Well, maybe
just
it
find
should be
out
just a
stuff
sign
coming.
that says, hey, guess what? If you give us your email, we'll send it this way, and you don't have to have the paper and save the town $1.
Yep.
I'll be doing the same next trip down.
Same.
Why not?
Assessing department total, proposed budget's $36,950. It's an increase of $200 or 0.5%. The legal department total is gonna be a total of $30,001. It's a decrease of $10,000 or 25%. Hopefully we can keep it down there. next page, the personnel admin department, total is, $818,504. That is an increase of $196,570, or 31.6%.
And the big drivers on that were health insurance went up like 43%, so I think the
Yeah.
board is
Next
looking
year,
at-
the Board of Selectmen will be looking at it at an earlier time. Hopefully, we'll get it on our agenda for sometime in the month of June in order to, or maybe earlier, to start looking at different options for health insurance so that we're not sitting at the last minute trying to change it.
Right.
And the other big driver was fire department retirement, picking up the new firefighters. So that drove most of the costs in
That
that
drove both,
section.
yeah.
That also helped drive the health insurance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep,
Oh, right, new employees.
add more, yep.
More employees.
The planning board department, line 115, proposed budget of $53,255. That's a 6.5% increase, or $3,251. See, there's a lot of notes on the side, so,
There's much coming before the board every meeting. There is much coming before the planning board every meeting.
yeah. Zoning department,
If I may, just for the sake of the planning board, one of the things that was cut in the budget process was Stratford Regional Planning Commission dues. I just wanted to mention, it doesn't show in any of the numbers, but it does show in the text, so I just wanted to mention that was something that the planning board had requested that was cut by both the select board and the budget committee.
Yeah, we've turned that down repeatedly in years past, I believe.
Yeah.
Just mentioning it for the public.
moving along to the zoning board department. Line 123, proposed budget of $3,801. There's no budget change there. Moving along to the town hall, other building department total, nice. The proposed budget's $193,862. It's a $43,847 increase, or 29.2% increase.
The big driver there is your electrical and heating costs.
Yep. These buildings are old.
Yeah, and you have to be able to cover it, right?
Right. Yeah.
I tried new abbreviations and I put in the narrative section describing what they were, but I hope that helps clarify.
No, it does. yeah.
Definitely, thank you for that. The cemeteries department total, $6,500, it's a decrease of $1,000, or 13.3%.
And thank you, it took 3 years to get those changed. See, you keep saying it year after year, eventually.
The insurance, department, the total of $112,486, or 2.7% increase. Which there, yeah. Regional Planning Association Department. Again, that's zero, no budget change there. Moving along to the police department, line 198. Our proposed budget is $705,353. It's a $48,579 increase, or 4.7% increase. What did I say? 7.4?
Yeah, 7.4.
Sorry. Yep, I did. It happens. Let's see. One of the big increases in here were training, so I think that's good. Not really much else.
I mean, the big driver is salary, but I think that includes picking up another part-timer or full-timer or something like that, right?
No, we still have 8 full-time.
Okay.
The big driver there is equipment, training, and the cruiser, everything costs
Yeah.
Okay. Fire and Rescue Department totals, $550,971. That's a decrease of $43,405 or 7.3%.
How does that work?
Yeah, I was gonna ask the same thing.
Is that because last year is that including all the warrant article stuff on last year's?
What about the fire station? Is that included?
Because 2022 budget's almost 600,000, up from 300, so I'm assuming that's,
Fire rescue gone down.
Sorry, I was ahead of the game on this one.
The part-time salary. Part-time salary is a, big reduction if you look at line 201.
You hired.
I mean, the final bottom line for the fire and rescue.
Yeah, but that is,
23,000 of it is in part-time
right,
firefighters,
right, and that's because of the full-time staff now.
because you hired full-time,
Which was on the warrant article, right?
yes.
Yes,
225.
Yep,
sorry, I didn't understand what you were asking me.
Right, because,
No, I think it is the warrant article, so if you look at line 202, there's a $225,000 thing that's only in the 22 budget line.
right,
So
so
that's,
it was added in there to kind of, to show
Yeah.
equality.
but that's why we get the kind of the weird situation where it says that for fire and rescue, the
It
total
went
is down.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually up overall, but in order to make it work where everyone agreed that it was Sanbonized for the 225, we put it in here even though it wasn't part of the
Yep.
operating budget.
I just want to make sure it was clear to everybody, and we didn't think that we were cutting the fire department.
no.
That's a good point, thank you.
Building inspection department total, $59,950. It's a $13,169 increase, or 28.2%. All right. Emergency management department, $4,211, and there's no increase there. The highway department total is $855,951. That's a $90,851 increase, or 11.9%.
And I think it's worth noting that there was a major change in there, in that a lot of I'm looking for the actual line for it. Contracted road maintenance projects, line 281. So in years past, we've had that budgeted for $300,000, and the board changed that in the proposed budget to $200,000. So that's reducing by $100,000 there, and that is being, sorry, that's shim and seal coat
Yeah.
department.
That's all right.
the next,
It's a related department.
Sure, go for
And
it.
so that is being moved off onto the warrant article, and we'll get to that in a little bit when we look at warrant article C. So I'm a little concerned by that, just because, road maintenance is a pretty important thing that the town has a responsibility to do. And I understand the motivation of moving a little more of it. It has always been split 50-50 between the budget and the warrant article, 300,000 on each. And I get it, it helps make it to the tax cap, but, it does risk it not being approved. And one can only do that 2 more times before there's no money for road and maintenance in the budget, and I don't think that's responsible.
It'd be detrimental to the
Right,
town.
and so it's worth thinking, if we do have to move things around in the budget, potentially adding some money here for the contracted road maintenance to get it back a little closer to normal, and I don't know if these warrant article numbers are set in stone or
Well,
not.
not to be argumentative, but if we had a 5.5% budget, the 100,000 would have been there.
I understand, but,
I know, I'm just saying, I mean, I'm not running for reelection or anything, I'm not trying to point out these points of saying
Getting the
why things
4%
are
was
important or
very
not.
tough for all of
Right.
us.
But had to do it, and we're leaving it up to the voters to help us with the 4%.
understood, but.
And that's why we switched that movement, thinking that they will help us.
Hopefully
and
the
make sure
voters
they'll
will
want to
help
take
us.
care of their roads and get them processed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing is as we go through this budget, you can see that most of the departments are, a lot of them are reductions or minor increase.
Oh, yeah.
So getting that 100, I'm with you 100%, I'd rather see that 100 in the budget, but it's just hard with the,
Right, but when we talk about moving $100,000 out of, you know, a long term, it's been $300,000 a year for road maintenance, and we spend far more than that for road maintenance. So it makes sense to have that in the budget because it's something we have to do. It's something we have to do every year. So to move that out and put it up for risk on a vote on a warrant article, to me, makes less sense than moving something that is, you know, not as important of a thing, like, you know, new baseball fields and stuff. I think that would be more appropriate to not have in the budget and to have in a warrant article. That's something that we can leave up to the voters to decide whether or not a new ball field is, you know, something that they want to be generous about
for clarity.
versus risking the
For
road
clarity,
maintenance.
there's no new ball fields in this budget.
Well,
There's
we'll get to that in
maintenance.
a little bit, I think.
Okay, moving along, 282, Tom just went over the shim seal coat department pretty much. Like he said, it's gonna be $200,000, and that's a $100,000 decrease. Recycling department, line 299, the proposed budget is $338,200, and that's an increase of $33,600.
And again, that's driven off salary and just increased tipping fees.
Right, and just, so you know, if we had 2,000 people in town that use the dump, pay $1 a week.
Yes.
That would be $100,000. We could put that money back in the seal coat.
It's possible, but I've been warned
Just throwing
by-
it out there.
And usually I'm a big supporter of user fees, but I've been warned by this gentleman over here in the past that if we start charging for disposal of trash, that it might lead to increased littering along our roadsides, and it's actually a really good argument.
Well-
Because what do we see littered along the roadsides is mattresses and televisions and tires, and those are the things that the dump charges for. So you have to balance, you know, yes, it's a way to get additional revenue.
We're talking about that's a whole different subject that'll come up next year maybe, but not tonight, but,
Not donations. Put a little
no, we're not doing
donation
donations, not even going there with that.
Alright.
And the other reason that the disposal fees go up is that China and other people are not buying our recycled materials anymore. Things such as paper, we do recycle the paper, but it costs us essentially the same amount to dispose of the paper through the recycling system as it does if we were to just send it to the landfill. And I had asked, you know, why do we not just throw the paper in the compactor, and the answer is that the compactor is not big enough, so we don't have the capacity to take all that stuff to the landfill. Similarly, like glass, we're essentially paying to throw out the glass. I think the only moneymaker is really metals at this point. Yeah.
Plus, if it's a wash to recycle it, then that's that much less trash in the world, in the landfills.
Possibly, although we don't know necessarily what these places that are taking it are gonna do.
We don't know where the recyclers are what they're doing with it afterwards. You're absolutely right, but at least we're trying.
And I did look into, we had some discussion on here about whether or not the wood and the paper and stuff could be taken to a place to be converted to energy. And Sean had looked into that, and they find all the sources for places to take things through a state system. And they do consider that, but there are no places in New Hampshire that do wood to energy or anything that will take our stuff, and that's due to some sort of state law. So even if we do sell our recycled or our wood for energy, it has to be shipped to Massachusetts to be burned. So it's just a little fact for everybody.
Thank you.
The logging industry has a lot of clout up north. That's why.
Like that pulp.
Line 304, Animal Control Department is gonna stay at 4,500, there's no decrease there. General Assistance Department total, $12,302, that's an increase of 1,500.
That's all just increase for utilities and fuel assistant funds, just expecting that because heating oil and electricity have gone up so much that there might be more requests from townspeople for assistance with those bills.
Yep, yep.
The Social Service Department is gonna stay steady at $25,050, there's no increase there.
Did the town receive the letters from all of these?
We received some letters, I don't, is Betsy back there?
No, no.
Are we required to have the request letter by the time the budget is approved?
No,
Okay.
yeah. We do request a letter, but not by the time the budget's approved.
I'll
They'll
check
come
with
in,
Betsy.
and we only send the money if we get the letter.
On line 349, the Recreation Department is a proposed budget of $128,703, and that's going up $8,652, or 7.2%.
And it's worth noting, the original request from the recreational department was 29% increase or something like that? 39, okay. So there's been some reductions there, but it's still a significant increase.
But I wouldn't be surprised if you see it increasing more. I mean, with all the families moving in, the rec department is growing a ton. So,
Well,
I
and
mean,
hopefully,
they'll offset
Yeah.
with the cost and everything, but I'm just saying to maintain and make sure everything's in accordance with the law for the kids and everything, I'm sure it's just gonna get, it's gonna go up, but they're providing a lot of services for the town, so.
yeah, well, and I think we've discussed on here about, that a lot of this stuff is, they charge fees for various things, and that goes into the rec revolving fund, and then that's used to support programs. So just encouraging them to, make sure that the fees that they're collecting are enough to support what they wanna do. And unlike charging money for the dump, if someone doesn't wanna pay to play on a ball field in particular, they can go play in an empty field or something, so it's not a cost on other taxpayers.
Yeah, bear in mind, though, that not,
That is so, sorry.
not every program that the rec department does charges fees. So for
Sure.
example, for the legacy, members luncheons, we don't charge them money. So not every program is something that runs through the rec revolving fund.
Well, I think a lot of people forget though that the rec department has services for our seniors as well as our,
All
the
ages.
young ones, so they provide services, so many services.
Teens
Yes.
as well, so.
Well, and hopefully they're able to turn a profit on the more popular activities that they charge fees for, and then those fees can be used to subsidize the free activities.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I'll say about that is, we're not in the business of making money off of town residents.
Sure.
We're not giving Courtney a revenue target that she has to hit. We certainly want to cover program costs, but.
Right, well, yeah, she's not running a business. I mean, she's
Correct.
getting, a free office space and free electricity and all that stuff. So she's not running a business in here, I understand that. But it does help when you have fees for things, because then you do get market feedback. I think Mike had mentioned that it is a good indicator from the community as to which things are actually in demand. It's very easy to look at how much money something's bringing in, and I believe there was some encouragement to look at programs that have been financially popular in other towns, like 5Ks and stuff like that, for generating revenue and fundraising.
So I think we're fortunate that we have Courtney here, and Courtney does all of that just as a matter of her job. That's just naturally what she does, and she analyzes the numbers and goes back. They have limited staff as well, so they want to make sure that they're focusing their energy on the programs that are serving the majority of the community.
Yeah, and she was able to provide me with her master spreadsheet with all of the numbers and everything.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, line 354, the library total.
Before we get off the rec department,
Sure.
I think one of the bigger things that we had discussed on there was line 335, which is rec park field beach maintenance and mowing. So the original cost on this was very high. A lot of this, bulk of it actually, $15,000 out of 25, that is for doing maintenance and stuff on Marston and Foss Fields. What's the breakdown on that, the 15 between the two?
Well, you can look at the size of the fields, that's Foss.
I don't know which,
Do you have that breakdown, Courtney?
I don't.
Okay.
is
yeah.
it 50/50 or what are we talking?
I can't imagine it's 50.
I don't, again, that's Foss Fields over
Which one's
there.
bigger?
Oh,
Marston, for sure.
Okay, so would it be fair to say like
Probably
10 of the
2/3,
15
1/3.
is Marsden?
I think that's probably.
This is more heavily used.
It is.
No,
Currently.
well,
Yes.
currently because we haven't started games out there yet, but that will be more heavily used than Foss.
Okay, so would it be fair to say 10 of the 15 is Marsden and 5 is here? Just random numbers?
You can take a dart and throw it at a board and come
Okay.
up with that.
All right, so if you look at that, mowing Marsden is gonna be 10,000. Seeding and fertilizing cost at Marsden is another 6,000. Some signage, which I'm assuming is evenly distributed. So that's, $16,000 for the Marsden fields, 5,000 for the existing fields here. So this is essentially looking for 16,000, new dollars for,
Well, no.
the Marsden project.
I don't agree with that assessment, because in 2022, that line item was 22,000. What we've asked for is a $3,000 increase.
Okay, well, I was looking back to 2021 where it was 12,000 before we started maintaining Marsden.
Well, I'm looking,
That's when we got
Yeah,
Marston.
but our
and,
actual was only 16,000.
Yeah, are those up to date? That was my question.
they should be, yeah.
But they don't,
So,
you
right,
guys
'cause
only
that's
spent
summer
the
stuff,
16,000, yeah.
Yeah, but we haven't had to mow Marston yet, we haven't had to fertilize, I mean,
Yeah.
all we did is seed over there.
Yeah.
I mean, we're at the,
Volunteers doing work too.
Yeah.
That
I-
can't continue.
We had volunteers to get it up to the point
Correct.
where it's
Building it.
built.
Right.
Right.
And the only reason why I was talking about this line last time was because I was under the impression that we were taking out of the raises and stuff in the merit pool. I mean, if we're not doing that, then me personally for the budget committee, just because I know we're gonna be using those services, personally, I know that people probably don't feel the same way, but if we're not having to take from anybody's salary to keep the Marston project going, then I'm fine with it.
Well, we're gonna have to take from everybody in town.
Well, what I'm,
You're taking from everybody in town for the park project, and I feel like,
what's wrong with that?
What's wrong with that?
Yeah.
Well, this is supposed to be a list of things that, are
I don't have kids,
so
but I think it's
important.
good.
These are things that are supposed to be so important that we force everyone in town to pay for it, or we take their house from them.
We haven't
That's
taken
not how
anybody's
it is,
houses.
though. That's
Don't start
not
bringing
how
stuff
it
like that
is.
up, that's not true.
I was
We've
just-
never taken anybody's house.
we've had so many
Don't
meetings
start
where you
spitting
haven't
stuff
said
out
that.
unless you're gonna say it the truth.
Well, how come there were tax deed
I'm defending this budget here because it's been well worked and it's very tough to where we are.
Didn't the town just sell off a bunch of properties last year?
You mean vacant land?
How
That's
did the
not taking
town-
people's houses, that's vacant land.
That's not.
that were tax deeded to the town. And I was just, when I was sitting in the tax collector, there was someone on the phone, and she was consoling them and saying like, look, it's gonna be 2 years before there's any action taken and houses taken, so people are having a hard time. All right, these are large bills.
Tom, I've been on the select board for 9 years, 4
Yeah.
years on the budget committee before that. If we took 2 houses in that time, I'd be amazed. And I
Okay.
think it's more like 1. So it's not a common practice. This town does everything to bend over backwards to keep people in their homes.
Right.
So please, I agree with John.
So if someone has financial problem and they can't pay their tax bill, and they're forced to sell their house and move somewhere else or move into a family member's house, you didn't take their house from them, but they still lost their home. And these tax bills are thousands and thousands of dollars, and these are people's largest expense. And I feel like what we're talking about here is putting together a warrant to collect money through force and threat of having your house taken away. So
is
these should be
everywhere.
these should be things that are so important that this is the only way that we can pay for them and do them. And when there are
This is important
things
for
that are
people's mental
fun,
health.
when we're talking about fun and recreation, like adding additional baseball fields for additional baseball fun.
Why don't you make a motion if you're gonna make?
I'm not making a motion. I'm just saying why it is more important.
We're not in a discussion.
Carol, I'm just saying why it is more important that we maintain the budget for road maintenance instead of spending that money on new baseball fields. It's more important to take care of the roads of this town and make sure that our fire and our police services are funded than it is to make sure that we have additional baseball fields. That's something that we could leave up to a warrant article to let people weigh in on, or it's something that we could raise the money voluntarily, which I think was the original intent with Marsden, that it would all be funded voluntarily.
So, again, I said this last week when we were here, the amount of volunteer work that has gone into cleaning up that property, building the fields, putting in the systems, has been incredible. That's getting us to the point of having the fields. What we're talking about now is different. What we're talking about is maintenance, the cutting, the seeding, all of that, which has to be done correctly. You're not gonna get volunteers that are gonna commit to go out there once a month or whatever the timetable is that they have to go out there. And oh, by the way, they have to be able to drive the right equipment to have it done. We're not sending out 50 people who show up with lawnmowers to cut the grass, every third Saturday. It's not gonna work. And so I respect that that is your opinion, Tom, about what the budget should be. But honestly, there are 48 100 other people in town who also see this as an opportunity to do what is right for the town and what the majority of citizens want.
If 4,800 people want this, then all you have to do is get about $3 out of each of them, and you'll be able to pay
If
for this.
4,800 people don't want it, all they have to do is show up on the poll on voting day and vote no on the budget.
But then it
But
goes-
maybe we
then it
don't
goes
want to
to
vote
default.
all of this down, and then it goes to a default
If it
budget,
was
which
a
takes
warrant
more money.
article, then they could vote on it, and I think that's the concern, is this,
Yeah.
the budget's incredible, I don't mean to step on anybody's toes, you guys did a great job with the constraints. But the thing is this is not a vital service of the town, this is not a required service of the town, so these sorts of items are best served by warrant articles. And if we have 25 warrant articles, then the people of the town can vote on them. I think that's the gist, it's no disrespect on the budget, you guys did a great job.
And I
But-
think many people disagree because it's a recurring annual cost, those should not be put onto warrant articles. I agree.
Just like the road maintenance.
Just like the road maintenance.
Well, I would agree that the road maintenance should be part of the budget too, but that's not
I think $15,000 or $16,000 for grass at Marston seems expensive.
Yeah, and I would think, Carol, I was elected by people, I had the same position last year, and they wanted me on the budget committee to look after things like this. I'm not saying it's a bad expense, it's better served as a warrant.
Our actuals, we were 4,000 less than what was budgeted, and now it's being asked that we're 9,000 more.
It's not
I think
9,000
that's
more.
expensive for grass.
And I think when you look at other towns, I think there are a lot of people that really do value having baseball fields, and they like this, and this is something that they want to support. And we have a Nottingham Youth Alliance, and I'm sure there's other groups that use these fields.
That
And
also
when
contribute to it.
They do contribute to it. And when I go to Barrington, the Barrington Youth Association, they own the land, they built the fields, they pay for all of the maintenance, they pay for all of this stuff. They don't expect the taxpayers of the town to take care of their recreational pursuits. And so I think that it's worth looking into, asking Nottingham Youth Association to contribute more of the cost. But they don't contribute enough, because apparently we're paying for all the trash cans, for the portable toilets, for all of these. These are a lot of extra expenses that are not just in that line item, and they're all things that are driven by this usage of the fields.
With all due respect, Madam Chair, this is supposed to be opportunity for the public to comment, and I think everybody is clear on Tom's opinions on this, and I think that that conversation is better left for when the public hearing is done and you guys have to do your work.
I agree. Does everybody else agree? All right,
It's a
keep
fair
it moving
point.
along
Do you
then.
have a question back there?
Yeah.
Did I see a hand? Yeah, I thought I saw your hand go up. Okay.
Are we gonna keep going and go
Yeah.
back to this after?
Yeah.
And if you guys wanna
Yeah,
talk about
once
it
they close
after,
out the public hearing,
public
then we'll
hearing.
we can go back to it.
We can go back to it in non-public.
All right, 354, library total, $1,954, or, excuse me, $194,626. It's an increase of $16,797, or 9.4%. The Historical Society Department is gonna maintain their $500, no change to the budget there. The Conservation Committee Department is $2,095 to budget change of $105, or 5.3%. And then the Debt Service Department totals $13,811, and that's a reduction of $103,526, or minus 88.2%. Our grand total operating budget proposed for 2023 is $4,842,866, with the increase of $197,990, or 4.3%.
So just to make sure everybody is aligned around that, this shows an operating budget increase of 4.3%. The tax cap is 4%. That the expenses here are offset by revenues, and that's how you get the 4%.
Yep.
So I just want to make sure there's no confusion about the 4.3%
Thank
in
you.
the operating budget.
Thank you. Sir?
Just a question. Debt service department total, I don't think like this, that reduction is just the paying out some of the.
Last year.
Identify what they are for people, that's all.
Sure,
Mulligan,
Yeah, we paid off the Mulligan forest easement, we paid off
The
the
fire
fire
station.
station easement.
Fire station paid off.
Yep. So with those completely out of the budget now,
And we
It was-
paid off Mulligan and we paid off the fire station.
Station.
And then, so that reduced the principal and interest lines for those. And then we were not apparently able to pay off the landfill, so those ones do remain on there.
and that's reflected on line 374 and 375 of the budget. You're welcome.
And so that was a pretty wise financial move last year. That put us in a good position this year.
Right, getting out of debt.
Does anybody else have any questions for us?
Well, we go to the next warrant articles.
Yep. I'm just giving them time to speak up if they need time. So we already went over the A's, so you wanna go?
Good. So
All right. So Article B, we're moving on to the warrant articles. To see if the town will vote to raise an appropriate sum of $90,000 to be added to the previously established town building maintenance and repair expendable trust fund. The sum is to come from unassigned fund balance. This expendable trust is used for maintenance and repair of heating, plumbing, or other major systems in town buildings or facilities. The estimated impact is $0 per $1,000 of property valuation. Majority vote required. The select board recommends this appropriation 5-0.
So I think there's a number of maintenance projects around this building that need to be done. I think this is,
They did a really good job of explaining everything to us of what needed to be done, like the plumbing is a huge issue. I mean, our town employees can't, it's not acceptable if they can't wash their hands or use the bathroom.
Right, there's not much revenue in there, right? It's like 37,000.
I
Yeah,
was just gonna look it up.
and they did a really good job, I thought, breaking it down of everything that they needed, what they needed it for, and got estimates. So 90,000 is a number that we felt they would be able to comfortably do all the projects needed to complete that maintenance job.
I just had a quick question, you know, like the school does, it's a little bit more transparent, like when these articles come up, they tell you how much is left in that fund. I think it helps people make a better decision, you know what I mean?
Yeah, there's 37,000 in there now. I don't know if anything was added to that last year or not, no.
is that something that can be, are these set
Yeah,
in
that's
stone,
what
or
it
can
says.
you add like the total
number,
current
what's
fund
left in
balance
there.
is blank, just like the school?
Excuse me, it can be added.
I think more information is always good.
Yeah, more information is better if people make up their choices.
So I can just keep going.
Oh, well, I mean, and, you know, speaking of information, you know, it does say the estimated tax impact is $0 per thousand. But of course, this is money that's gonna be coming out of the unassigned fund balance, so that's tax money that the town collected in excess last year. And so if it was not expended on this project, it would be returned to the taxpayers, or it would be money that would not have to be raised through taxation this coming year. So it is always a little misleading when these items say that they're zero tax impact. We all know you can't get money for nothing.
Okay, Article C, to see if the town will vote to raise an appropriate sum of $400,000 for highway reconstruction and maintenance work for top coat and protect the base of Flutter Street and Oak Ridge Road, reconstruction and paving of Deerfield roads or other roads in Nottingham if a priority arises. This is a non-lapsing appropriation per RSA 32:7 V1 and will not lapse until the work is complete or not later than 1 year after the end of the fiscal year 2023, whichever occurs earlier. Majority of vote required. The estimated tax impact is 48 cents per $1,000 of property valuation. The select board recommends this appropriation 5-0.
So John, I got a question on this. Since the money was moved out of the budget for road maintenance into this, do we have less leeway with the way this is spent than we do with the road maintenance money in the budget? Because this says, you know, this money will be spent to protect Flutter Street, Oak Ridge Road, reconstruction and paving on Deerfield Road, and other roads in Nottingham if a priority arises. Are we able to say that, you know, there's a priority that this needs to be done? Just as much as we could if it was in the regular maintenance budget?
Basically, you are more restricted in the use of these funds than you are in the operating budget.
Thank you.
So that's kind of concerning. So if we add,
know that.
if we put more money back into the budget line for the road maintenance, would you guys be able to reduce this by the same amount?
I can't
So that
speak
we
for
have-
the board, but,
I mean, technically, are they able to change the number at this point?
oh yeah, they can change.
Okay, that's the question.
These numbers can be changed up until, the budget is posted.
Okay.
Okay.
Because the goal is to have $600,000 in road maintenance.
Right.
Yes.
All right.
And it goes quick.
Article D, to see if the town will vote to raise an appropriate sum of $90,000 to be used for engineering projects, including culverts on Kelsey Road and Cooper Hill Road and the library parking lot. The sum is to come from unassigned fund balance, majority vote required. The estimated tax impact is $1,000 per $1,000 of property valuation. The select,
To
$0.
$0, what did I say?
$1,000.
Thank you, guys.
Smokes.
Yep.
Very good,
I
fair
am reading
job.
ahead. The select board recommends this appropriation 5-0. Sorry about that. Article E, to see if the town will vote to raise an appropriate sum of $6,000 to be used for improvements to the library entrance, including accessibility for ADA compliant door opening device. Majority vote required. The estimated tax impact is 0.7 cents,
Point.
less than 0.007
You said 7 cents.
per $1,000
cents, yeah.
per valuation, property valuation. The select board recommends this appropriation 5-0. Okay.
That's a
Article
good
F.
one, yeah. It's
Oh,
only a
this
matter of
one?
time, for someone
I
trips or
know.
falls, you sprain an ankle, emergency room, it's $1,000 right there easily.
We gotta get that
I was surprised
done.
that didn't get done last year.
Yeah, so am I. I'm glad no one got hurt that we know of.
Article F, to see if the town will vote to raise an appropriate fund of $100,000 to be added to the Highway Truck Capital Reserve Fund previously established. Majority vote required. The estimated tax impact is 0.12 cents per $1,000 of property valuation. 0.12 cents. $0.12. The select board recommends the appropriation 5-0. We've already talked about this.
So this is
How
not,
much is in
No,
that?
one, is this the one that has 308,000 in it?
That's because we bought
I
a
have
truck
it
for
right
two hundred and sixty and the money hasn't come out of it
Oh,
yet.
okay.
18
See,
left.
all right,
How
okay.
much is in
Well,
there
that's
after
good to
that?
know,
48.
you know, that's,
80,000 is current.
But I've done a chart showing out your cash flow for the next 15 years, and basically you need to put 100,000 aside every year, assuming no inflation, in order to buy the trucks based on their lifespan and replacement. 15 years on the big trucks, 10 years on the smaller trucks,
inflation.
as you look it out. So you have to keep putting money in there, and then you still run into a problem in 2037 when you've got, you know, basically,
2037.
Thanks a
Problem in
lot.
2037.
but no, in other words, you need to keep putting 100,000 in there because of the, you end up spending actually 1 year, I think it's 500,000 because you have 2 trucks due. Now, we could shift it out, but you still get the same total.
Well,
due.
we might have
So
flying cars by
And
2037.
we
God,
didn't, we didn't do it last year.
We won't have flying.
Yeah,
I have a
you get
question.
that last-
We didn't do it
Didn't
last
pass
year.
last year?
Correct.
This is for like big trucks, right? This is,
Ten-wheelers.
because
Highway truck.
the town just used ARPA money to purchase a truck, or is using ARPA money to purchase a truck, right?
104.
Is discussing it, but has not made a decision on using ARPA money to buy to replace the 350, which had, you know, it's in the garage more than it's on the road.
And that wouldn't be something
I
that
thought that
would,
was already
could
bought
be,
and
but
spent.
we're buying that so that that wouldn't have to be figured into here, but 10 years from now, it will. Because you got a 10-year lifespan on it, so
On a
it
smaller
comes up
truck.
again.
Yep.
Even the pickup truck could be in here, but the big expense here is your 6-wheelers and your 10-wheelers. Even the 550 is not cheap anymore.
so is that the last of the ARPA money, basically?
No, well, we've got, after the truck, you'll still have in excess of 100,000 left, assuming you, actually, the truck isn't even coming out of ARPA, it's technically coming out of
Highway
highway
fund.
block grant money that was in excess of anticipated money. The state came up with extra money last year for highway. So that's where that one's coming from. The backhoe for the transfer station is the opera money that will bring it down to somewhere between 150 and 175,000 left.
That's if the board decides to spend the money on that.
Correct.
Correct.
That
I
has
mean,
not
no
been
decision has
done.
been made. We're putting a request for proposal out, but no decision is.
To give us a number of what it might cost. And we are actually looking at used ones too.
So when all is said and done with the ARPA money, do we get like a report that says this is what all the bits were spent on?
I've been covering it in my report regularly. I can give you a summary.
He's got a list of what has been,
Used.
what's been used already, and then kind of like the wish list for the rest.
It'd be neat to have that for town meeting.
Yep,
Or deliberative session.
yep.
Article G, to see if the town will vote to raise an appropriate of the sum of $100,000 to be added to the fire vehicle SCBA Capital Reserve Fund previously established, majority vote required. The estimated tax impact would be 12.12 cents per $100,000 of property valuation.
Is that the amount we've been putting in every year?
Something like that. I think it's like 207,000 is in there now, but fire trucks are what, 500,000, I think, probably, for new fire trucks.
That's why I was, Chief, do we need to up this a little bit for inflation? Like,
CIP, I believe 3 years out, I have a number going on. The plan right now is, the next planned replacement truck is gonna be 2020 time this year. We've got a couple of years before we have to go there.
Nice.
That's assuming that the tanker's still, the tanker's already at 20, they're on tanker. So, it is part of the future CIP plan to increase that amount. It's gonna be a step increase right now. I'd like to level fund it.
if he's happy, I'm happy.
Sounds good.
Um, If you wanted the opera expenditure, I can tell you what it is right now.
We can go through the articles first, we'll go back to
Let's,
that.
we'll stick
Yeah,
to
we'll do
this.
that
Yeah.
first.
We can
Just give it off to
send
them.
it to you,
Yeah.
and then you can let us know
Email
if you
it.
have any questions.
I'll email it.
Article H, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $20,000 to be added to the previously established revaluation capital reserve fund for the purpose of performing a statutory revaluation of property every 5 years. The sum is to come from unassigned fund balance. Majority vote required. Let me put that in there twice. The estimated tax impact is $0 per $1,000 of property valuation. The select board recommends this appropriation 5-0.
Did you catch that typo?
Yeah, it's majority vote required twice. And then, yeah, just cross out.
Is that the
first one.
amount we've been putting in every year? Because didn't we vote that down last year?
We did.
Yeah, so do we have to add more, or I guess it just comes up in 3 more years?
There was a balance left that may be enough to carry you through if you keep putting the 20 in.
All right,
You may have to in the last year put extra in, but we felt 20 was enough to keep going at this point.
okay, thank you.
Trying to be responsible with the money.
Need to go back and look at that.
Article I, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $10,000 to be added to the invasive species prevention and eradication removal expendable trust fund previously established. Majority vote required. The estimated tax impact is 0.01 cents per $1,000 of property valuation. The select board recommends this appropriation 5-0.
So we had some concerns with that one on previous discussion. John had tracked down the original warrant article that established the Invasive Species Prevention and Eradication Removal Expendable Trust Fund. And it had very exclusionary language in there that said that it would only apply to lakes and ponds in Nottingham. So it wouldn't apply to any rivers or streams that feed into those lakes or ponds, should those become infected with milfoil. And there's also, a more diverse amount of invasive species in town that are causing damage and problems, such as Japanese knotwood, which is growing along our roadsides, emerald ash borers, which I think have pretty much done all the damage they're gonna do, and the woolly agalids are destroying our hemlock trees. So there's a number of threats that, might warrant some control and prevention, and my concern is that this fund is, as it was established, is very limited in scope. And so it might make sense to, I guess you probably can't change the change what the fund is appropriated for.
Two-thirds vote to change the purpose.
Yeah, so I don't know if it could be
It's easier to
discontinued
add a
and
new
reestablished
fund.
or something.
It's
Yeah.
easier to add a new fund.
Article J, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $40,000 for the purpose of purchasing the necessary fuel supplies, equipments, and maintenance to run the ambulance and billing services for 2023. And to authorize the withdrawal of $40,000 from the ambulance and equipment replacement special revenue fund created for this purpose. Majority vote required again. The estimated tax impact is $0 per $1,000 of property valuation. The select board recommends this appropriation 5-0.
So it's worth noting that this one's essentially paid out of user fees, it's reimbursed. So this one, it actually is true that the estimated tax impact is 0.
But that includes 2 though, right, ambulances now? Did we pass one last year to have a second one?
Yep.
So this would staff two ambulances in.
Not staff, it doesn't cover any labor charges.
Oh, right, I'm sorry, right. Just the equipment?
Yes.
Okay.
Article K, to see if the town will vote to establish a police technology equipment expandable trust fund for purchase and major repairs of technology equipment for the police department, including but not limited to mobile data terminals, cameras, servers, radios, tasers, radar units, etc., naming the Board of Selectmen as agents to expend and further to raise the appropriate $10,000 into the fund. Majority vote required. The estimated tax impact is 0.01 cents per 1,000 of property valuation. The select board recommends this appropriation 5-0.
Yeah, so that one sounded good. It sounded kind of like the fire department's thing, where it's putting a little money in each year, because some of these expenses are quite large, but don't have to be purchased very often. Things like a drone with a thermal camera, that can be $10,000 alone, and you don't want to have to throw that in your budget one particular year, and you want to be able to replace it if it comes up. I believe that was the intent, right? Okay.
Article L, shall we rescind the provisions of RSA 32:B-5, known as the tax cap, as adopted by the town of Nottingham on March 14th, 2023, so that there will no longer be a limit on increases to the recommended budget in the amount to be raised by local taxes by petition 3/5 or 60% vote required. Article M,
Can we change any of the by petition things?
No.
Or are
No.
they just up and down?
they're
votes?
petitioned by citizens, right?
No, it's not even that this one is petitioned, this is one of the RSAs that have specified language for the question.
Okay.
So in this RSA for the tax cap, it has, this is the sentence that you put in there if you want to
the
enact a
language.
tax cap, and this is the sentence that you have to put in
wanna
there if
take
you
out.
want to rescind the tax cap. And having read that recently, I'm pretty sure that this is, wait a minute, actually,
There is a mistake in here that will have to be corrected.
yeah, actually, this is, now that I've read further, this is not the way it reads in the thing. I'd have to look it up, and I won't do it right now, but
But that's something that could and would need to be changed.
it's something that will
before it
have
goes on
to
the ballot.
be, it will have to be changed.
So the one thing that.
Well, the option is that you throw it out because it doesn't have the
Doesn't.
required language.
Well,
That's
Not
the other
that would
option.
be a deliberative sessions
Yeah.
decision.
Yeah.
It has to go to deliberative.
Yeah.
The way
No,
they-
but as it's written here, this is not legal.
Well,
because
the
there's-
problem they have is they have this year's date for town meeting instead of last year's date
Yes.
for town meeting.
Yeah, that too.
That's,
But that's more of a typo.
it's a
Yeah,
typo.
that's what we figured.
Exactly,
And
exactly.
and legal just says, just correct it at deliberative session.
Okay.
So given though that, my experience with the budget committee in the past was that the budget committee only votes to recommend or not recommend, articles that have dollar amounts associated
that's
with
right.
them. My assumption is that the budget committee will not be voting on this warrant article.
Yes, correct.
Probably not. We
Artic-
might discuss it though.
Article M, shall the town of Nottingham raise an appropriate $40,000 for the calendar year, $40,000 for the calendar year of 2023 in order to contract with a property management firm to make repairs to facilities as needed according to priority as determined by the Select Board and to provide maintenance of facility grounds. By petition, majority vote required. This estimated tax impact is 0.05 cents per 1,000 of property valuation. The Select Board recommends this appropriation 3-2.
So
There's
if
a
I
little
could.
split there, huh?
Well, I'd like to explain why. It's not that the select board doesn't support that. There was, as we started talking about it last night, there was the language that says, in order to contract with a property management firm. And we felt that that was a little too specific. And again, that the recommendation is that it be amended at deliberative session. And I don't know what that language is yet, but we did feel that property management firm was too
specific.
specific. And so it's not that the select board members were against this, it's just that they weren't comfortable voting with that language in there.
That's fair.
So had it been the proper language, the vote would have been 5-0.
And you said that's probably gonna get changed at deliberative
The
session.
petitioner will make a motion to change that.
Okay.
Is the intention of the petitioner just basically they want to see more maintenance done on the town buildings? Shouldn't that then sort of, I mean, that's kind of the same as
In the
like
budget already?
the earlier
Shouldn't that
one,
be in
right?
Article B?
They can get anyone to do it.
Right,
I mean, they
right.
can't get anybody to do any work here. Like, so if they contract it out, then you already know somebody's gonna come and do it.
You
When
would
the
hope-
toilets are broken, they
You
can
would
have
hope
somebody come
Article
in.
B covers that, but
Yeah, why is it different than Article
The
C?
difference is Article B is for major, you know, something that's $5,000, $10,000. This would be somebody or other who would come and, you know, there's sockets around that need to be repaired, or lights, or little things that need to be done.
But still 40,000 in there.
Yeah,
But
that's-
CIP,
Still
yes,
40,000.
so
Versus
CIP
small things.
only really looks at
Seems
10,000
a little large.
greater, but if you have one outlet and then you have 2 outlets and then all of a sudden you have 10 outlets, then that suffices as something more, and like, I don't think they should wait until they have $10,000 worth of repairs before we go out to bid on someone who only does these kinds of repairs, and then someone who only does these kinds of repairs. I see
There's
where you're
locks
coming from.
broken in here, there's
I
light
see where you're
fixtures that
coming
are
from.
There's-
broken in
there's
here,
a-
there's.
I believe you.
Long list.
This is like handyman stuff.
Yes, sir.
Exactly.
In the back.
Exactly.
Sir?
I'd like to just mention that when you put a large amount of small repairs together, they can become one bigger item. But
Yes.
maybe not be able to contract one specific contractor for that, but somebody that does repair, maintenance.
Thank you.
That would be $770 a week.
We might not spend it all.
Yeah, we might not spend it all.
Very true.
So Article N, to see if the town will approve the readoption of the optional veterans tax credit, RSA 72:28, 2, to include those service members that are currently serving and have not yet been dishonorably discharged from the armed service. The readoption of the optional veterans tax credit, if approved, would continue to offer a $750 tax credit to all honorably discharged veterans that qualify under the current requirements as of April 1st, 2023. Would expand the eligibility requirements to include those individuals that have not yet been discharged from active services.
I have a
isn't
question.
that covered by the RSA and not by town warrant?
They're not, if they're veterans, then yes, it's covered, I'm pretty sure, but if they're not
They
veterans
changed,
yet,
they changed the law last year, and it requires you to readopt it. And the purpose of changing the law was to expand the veterans that would qualify. So the law allows the town to adopt one of these, but the town then has to adopt it.
okay.
So when they say readopt, this is not something that expires
It's
that we
not
have to
new.
readopt. It's, you have to readopt it to get the new expanded
Exactly.
scope.
If-
Gotcha.
If this is defeated, not only, but the limits go back to the old amount, a lower amount, because it doesn't just go back to what we had. No longer is that.
Goes back to 500, not 750. That was the old amount.
It was 500.
Drops back to a lower number too, automatically.
This is
So-
basically administrative paperwork that we need to do.
Yeah.
That's what it looked like.
Yeah.
I'll also say, I went and looked up the Article L's language. It is correct, other than that date needs to be
Yeah,
changed.
I looked at it too.
Yep.
And it came in yesterday.
We can have people make mistakes.
It's nice when the internet works in here.
I know.
Yeah, right.
Do you wanna read that? Okay.
That-
I'm gonna,
But before you go on to the next two, I just want to make a mention that there is a significant problem with the last two petitioned articles that came in today. One of the issues we're working on that relates to signatures that we can't read, and we're trying to see if they in fact have enough signatures, and
okay,
so it may be that these don't have enough signatures, but we don't know the answer yet. We're working on that.
okay.
The other problem is the language is all wrong. It says, "I approve raising an amount of X number of dollars." It should read, "Shall the town vote to raise and appropriate X number of dollars?" And there should be a dollar number in there. So this is like a blank check, and I don't exactly know how the budget committee can recommend it.
Right.
But you have to take a vote on it, according to our attorney, because it is about broadly an appropriation. The selectmen haven't seen these because they came in today, and the budget committee has to take a vote. Now,
Do we assume it's zero? Do we assume that it's, are we voting that it's a good idea,
assume-
or?
we can only vote on how it's
the
written.
number O is 1.3 million, but I don't know if that's the number. that
So,
you put
just
in there.
you, so let's just go quickly, I'm just gonna say.
Yeah,
I'm
let's
gonna
read
bring
them.
up my opinion on this and just.
Can we read, let's read them
I'll read
first.
them.
Sure, go right ahead.
We
Read
should,
the articles.
I wanna know what the intent was, so let's read whatever they
I don't
wrote.
even know, right,
So what, I
mean,
just
it's a
wanna
moot point
finish
'cause
on
it's not
N
mine.
first.
I'm okay with N, sounds good.
So on N, what, isn't there a tax impact on that?
Well, not for $0, if zero's in there.
It's not gonna increase
for
the amount
N.
of taxation.
Back to N, John.
It's
Oh,
gonna
N.
change the distribution of it.
It's not an appropriation, you're right, there is a cost of the credit.
Right,
but
there's a cost of the credit. It's not an appropriation, but there is a cost of the credit.
There is a cost of the credit. It'd be hard to figure because you're not changing the dollar amount. If you were changing the dollar amount, you knew you had 100 veterans at 500 and you were going to 750, you know that it would be
X amount of dollars.
Okay,
But
that's-
it doesn't change the amount of money that's raised through taxation.
I
It's
was
just, it changes the distribution of it.
It does because they get credits, which then have to be offset by a higher tax rate.
So,
From the other people in town.
Right.
yes.
But you're not changing the amount of dollars that are collected, you're just collecting them from different
You're
people.
shifting.
Yeah, so there's no increase to the amount to be raised through taxes.
Why wouldn't there
could-
be
there'd
if
be-
there
there's
are
more.
more people?
Because the same number of
not
dollars,
discharged yet are going to be qualifying for that.
Yeah, but that's still the same amount of money. You're right. I understand.
still
It's
raising the
still
same amount of money.
you're not changing how much money is being spent and how much money is being collected, you're just,
How it's being spread out.
Yep,
it's the equivalent to changing how much money someone's valuation on their house is worth.
okay, I'm gonna keep going and read the next part.
All right, go for it.
Petition articles arrived January 10th and hence has no select board recommendation. We are checking signatures and it may be that one or two or one of the other will not meet 25 signature threshold. There are issues with these two articles as they are improperly drafted and have no dollar amount, hence will require amendment at deliberative session. Our attorney recommends Board of Selectmen and Budget Committee make a recommendation since the intent appears to be an appropriation, although that is not specifically requested. I recommend a public hearing set for after the deliberative so the recommendation can be changed if the article is amended for both Board of Selectmen and Budget Committee.
Now-
Article O.
If I can just explain what that process is. I assume here, you're not going to sign a blank check, so you're gonna recommend against it. If after deliberative session, you wanted to change that recommendation, you have to have a public hearing that's noticed in the paper. The way we would do that is notice it in the paper for having the hearing after the public hearing before the meeting even occurs, and if it isn't changed in a satisfactory session, you just don't even have a meeting, you leave your current recommendation on there.
Okay.
John, why can't, for example, the Budget Committee vote to not recommend it tonight because there's no dollar amount?
That's what fully I expect to happen.
Yeah, right.
What,
But-
can
but
we
then-
speculate on the dollar amount it would cost to do
No, it's
these?
not appropriate.
Right.
I didn't say we'd fill the numbers in, I said we can speculate what these would cost.
I think you have to vote on a blank check at this point, because if you recommend it, and then they go put the 1.3 million in, are you really glad that you recommended that? Because the deliberative session can change it.
I'll read the articles.
I believe that the Board of Selectmen is allowed to
No.
change these a little bit.
No.
No,
Yeah, a
no.
little.
You're not
bit.
allowed to change the intent.
Change
You
typos.
can make adjustments. I
Yeah,
think
this-
they were leaving it up to you, so they assume that you know the cost of these
Why,
things.
why would we do that?
That's not, yeah.
I don't think so.
Is there any chance the petitioner's here?
They're probably afraid to stand up to this article.
Well, we could at least get an answer, you know?
I mean, to me, we have to put it on the way it's written. At the deliberative session, the decision has to be made if you're going to amend it and proceed in that direction, or if you're going to basically kill it. But at some point tonight, or before the posting, both the Board of Selectmen and the Budget Committee have to put a recommendation on it. And given what is here, I would be surprised if the Budget Committee recommends, but that's your option.
I think it's very important that when we asked if the petitioner was here, we're getting, and I'm pausing again, we're getting no answer. The petitioner is not here when we're discussing this, and I recall that last year, when we had a similar issue with the truck, et cetera, we voted not to recommend that, so I would vote not to recommend these.
Are you guys gonna at least write like to be determined at deliberative session in
I
here?
don't think we need
Nobody's
to.
gonna write anything in there. The
No,
petitioner's not
That's-
here.
Right,
not
that's
ours.
the way
So
they're
it's
presented.
not,
Right, but I mean, everybody in town's gonna look at this and go, I don't get it.
Right.
exactly,
It's not our
and that's
fault.
not
We
their
don't
fault.
get it.
It's not our fault.
The only thing
can't
that I
assume.
added, by petition, majority vote required, and if they had had a dollar amount in there, I'd put the tax rate impact, but because there's no dollar, I can't do that, so, but you do add those latter things by petition, majority
Yeah.
required. But, you know, I don't even know where to begin to
I'm not a lawyer, but I'm also not gonna charge you hundreds of dollars for this advice. I would talk to the petitioner and just ask if you could write to be determined.
Actually,
Why?
When are they
But
due
why?
by?
No, I
They're
don't
due
think
by
they-
tonight?
Yeah.
Uh,
Tonight,
Tonight, yeah, that's what I
so,
thought.
Hawk.
That's why I think we scheduled it for tonight.
all right, I'm gonna read them.
So,
The board can change language without
gonna-
changing the intent.
Read the article so
well,
everyone knows.
if that
what
is
we're talking
true,
about.
then we can go back to the typo of March 14th, 2023, and change that to
No.
2020.
you can.
Which John has said we can't, so we
Oh.
will
don't go
go.
there.
I'm pretty sure you can.
I,
Again, not a lawyer, but
Alright.
I'm not charging you money, so.
Article O, I approve raising the amount of no dollars listed for the purpose of reconstructing and paving the remaining dirt road portion of Ledge Farm Road. Engineering design for this roadway improvement project was previously funded and completed in previous years to address the worsening high traffic volume problem and lack of maintenance. By petition, majority vote required. Article P, I approve the raising the amount of blank dollar amount for the purpose of completing a preliminary and/or final engineering design necessary to reconstruct and pave Poor Farm Road. The proposed engineering effort is necessary to determine the most effective means to improve the road to a paved condition that is safer and more suitable for current and future traffic demands. This warrant article will only result in an engineering design and estimated construction costs. Actual construction will be funded under a separate warrant article in a subsequent calendar year. By petition, majority vote required.
I mean, it's a great article if you actually knew the number,
Are all
right?
the warrant articles
I have
sure?
a
no,
But we
'cause it
don't.
said-
I have
It
a
should say,
question.
shall.
Isn't it, shouldn't, when someone submits a warrant article, when they submit it, shouldn't someone look at it and just, simple things like, I approve and
It's
blank.
a
No.
petition, it's a
Can't you-
petition warrant article. In the past, some people who are submitting them come to the town administrator, to the office, and say, do I have this right? Or, and in some cases, they've been sent out to DRA to have them verify it. So the town has worked with petition warrant article submissions in the past on the language when they ask for it. These just came in out of nowhere.
And there
But
were
if
already
they're coming
signed.
out of nowhere and nobody's asking, then that's how.
Well, they
it
go to,
goes.
they go to the
Somebody
town
wrote 'em, got a
clerk.
bunch of
But if I brought
signatures,
this
long story
in
short,
and-
then just
If I brought
yeah,
this
turn 'em
in person and gave it to you, you'd say, Sandra, I don't think this really works, and this is why.
We would give you guidance.
So they go, the problem is they get turned into the town clerk, and if they came in today, even if the town clerk read them, which I don't think she will, I think she'll basically just verify the signatures and pass it along. Even if she said, hey, you should change this language, you would then have to print out a new one and go get all the signatures again.
All over
Right.
again.
Too late for him today,
Yeah.
when he
Yeah.
came in.
Yeah.
If he
No
came in
offense to whoever read
yesterday,
them, it was
hey,
poorly planned.
Not today.
Definitely.
It's definitely poor.
Let's step some for next year.
Not everybody's a lawyer,
Does
so.
anybody have any questions over
But
the
you know
I
what,
wanted to
Todd?
hear what John had to say about these.
Yeah, yeah.
budget or the warrant article?
Sorry, yeah.
Just asking people in the audience if they had any questions about the warrant articles or the budget that we went over for public comment.
John, the first one talks about doing paving and reconstruction. It says that engineering design for it was already funded and completed. And then the second one says, you know, they want an engineering design to come up with an estimated cost. The engineering and design that was done for Ledge Farm Road, did they come up with an estimated cost?
There was a cost for what it was
How much was that?
a couple years ago too, so everything's changed from where it was.
We-
It was over $1 million to pave one.
Was it
Maybe
a
that's why
mile?
the number
0.2
got left
miles.
off.
Or whatever.
A mile, I think.
All right.
All right, so we said no. Now,
wasn't just paving, it was engineering.
well, no, we had to rip up all
All of it.
the whole thing, re-gravel, redo everything, rebuild the base, redo, I mean,
It was very expensive.
All right.
because
And then
over the
before-
course of that road being almost 300 years old, the town of Nottingham has added probably 10 feet of dirt.
Yeah.
You know, just kept packing, filling, you know, I mean, just what we did, you know?
That was a bad bed.
So
on the
basically.
It was,
road. For
right.
plowing and stuff, you know what I mean, the town plowing.
Again,
that
it's,
was
if it's one of the
dangerous.
roads in town, in my opinion, it probably should get done sometime in the future, because it is heavily done. Poor Farm Road is a very narrow road, comes up a big hill, if you guys ever been on it. That would be millions of dollars, not
Right.
one, probably more than two.
So the
because
poor,
of what
the
you'd
poor
have to
farm,
do.
they're just asking for an engineering and an estimate,
Right.
right? And then you're saying that it's probably gonna be over $1 million for Ledge Farm Road.
Oh,
So
yeah.
my guess is that, you know, at that number, it probably wouldn't pass, and that if that was something that the town wanted to budget, it would be
That
a
information,
multi-year
whoever wrote this
project.
Article O
Right,
could have went back
yeah,
into our notes in the history and found all this information and wrote this correctly.
yeah.
The man who gave me
Right.
this is a
It's
civil
partially
engineer.
paved, from that development paved
Yeah.
so much of it, and then the town paved a little more
Right, wants it for
section.
his.
Yeah.
So it sounds like the more realistic path
There
is
you go,
probably
right?
completing it in
Thumbs up.
stages.
Let's not lose sight of the fact that we have a very experienced and highly qualified public works director who has a plan for roads. And so I think that we should trust his guidance on what roads need to get done when.
Right, but it does sound like some of the people that live on these roads are impatient.
Farm's a
Everybody
mess. I drive
is,
it every day, poor farm,
Yeah.
but
everybody is.
Actually,
Ledge
many
Farm
of
might
our
be one that
roads
should
are
brings us to the
right
end.
now.
farm, it's all that
Season
dust that
we've
people
ever
live
had
on
in
that road.
January.
Yeah, exactly. It's early for mud season.
Final public comment and then.
Right, that's, yeah, exactly.
So if anybody else doesn't have any comment, we'd like to close the, go for it.
Before you close the public hearing, I just wanted on the record that you have revenue
Oh, yeah,
projections
yeah,
to be
that's right,
used.
thank you.
And we should make sure we go over those as part of the hearing.
Right,
Okay.
good,
The-
good point, thank you, Joe.
2,000,000,
Thanks for that reminder.
791.
And that is up,
That is up 100,625.16.
which makes up that 0.3%.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so our 2022 actuals are also up almost 100,000 over our estimated 2022.
Yes. And that was the basis for increasing the projections that are there. The reason I bring these up is because the budget committee and the selectmen have to both put revenues on the 737, and the selectmen are putting these, and I don't know if the budget committee has different numbers, but it has to come up at the public hearing, and a decision needs to be made by the budget committee.
Yeah, I mean, as always, coming up with the revenues, projected revenues, we're conservative with it.
And the other thing is, come August, you have to revise your estimates for DRA based on where you're going, any changes that have occurred. Unexpected income, we had one item of $11,000 we just got that had not been anticipated when we did this, but some of the things on here may not happen, so we're not changing the number
Okay.
right now, but.
Any questions on the revenues?
One of the big changes was, to 3401, income from department. This looks like it has 30,000 extra. What was that? In the
Yeah,
actuals for this year?
The actual for this year was, there are two lines on here in which the actual I felt was not the right number to use because there was income in there that I could not reasonably anticipate in '23. So that is why on that line, and there's another line, it's below the actual as far as what's in there, because it's not reasonable to expect the same in
Right, it was
revenue.
the other.
But like I said, we just got an $11,000 contribution from Barrington for having poached an officer, so, you know, that wasn't expected either, so. We have, contracts with our officers that if we put them through school, they have to pay us back. So, that's the point.
How it goes.
That wasn't
That
expected.
was smart clause to put in there.
Well,
You
we got
don't-
a smart
you don't-
police chief.
You don't always get it.
No,
No, if they don't, if they go into another police department, usually the departments are good about it, but if they leave the field entirely, you don't get it. But we hadn't budgeted that when we did the numbers, so like I said, there'll be things come that we don't expect, there'll be ones that won't, but that's why we came up with a number based on actuals that we think is conservative.
Does anybody else have any comments or questions for the committee before we close the public comment? Yes, ma'am?
You wanna come up?
Our name,
Name and address.
Here, come on. Question.
Bonnie McKinnon?
Yeah, Bonnie Winona McKinnon, double last name, no hyphen.
He's new.
I know. I'm the old town moderator. Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
I just want to go back to the town clerk's salary. I trust we're paying them more than that, and I know that they get some kind of,
Sorry, Bonnie, what line item is it?
26.
Yeah, I think they collect the fees or they get
Go
paid out of
together. They
fees.
get this plus that. They get those two
Well, I
numbers
should have,
together.
I'm glad they sat me next to you.
Yes.
So they get this plus that.
Right, so it's a
So
total.
it's a lot more than this.
It's different than that because they get 54,000 in fees and then 24,000 is in their hourly rate.
It's confusing because it says fees. It sounds like we're paying fees, but they're fees that,
That they get,
It's-
part.
yeah.
I knew they got part of the fees, I just wanted to know, really, this is very misleading then as their salary.
Yeah, we thought
Yeah.
about taking that out, but
And
that,
I
they
thought
put
they
that
were
in when they
abysmally low,
calculated
really,
it.
if you
Yeah.
have so much concern for town employees.
yeah, I think that trips us up every year. We ask about that, yeah.
All right. So their salary is actually, but this is both salaries?
The two of them together, yes,
So this is Lori's salary and
Alana's.
Alana's salary.
yes, 54 and 24 would be 78,000, 79,000. Okay.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions for the committee?
All right,
Close it?
yeah.
All right.
Change the
We're
title.
gonna go ahead and close the public hearing portion of our meeting. I wanna thank everybody for coming.
Oh, this is when the fun begins.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm just thanking them for coming.
That's good idea.
5-minute break?
Yep.
We can, table.
No, I need to take the,
Oh.
I need to. So there's a break here?
Break.
5-minute break.
Did everybody sign in?
What? Why do you have to take minutes? Who's taking the minutes tonight? Well, we'd have to pay the same person here.
Doesn't know what anybody is. It's more efficient for me to do it than for somebody who doesn't know what
I remembered what I was gonna ask you.
budget. It's not like she knows
Hey.
the budget. She knows about it.
You get natural A?
Somewhat. This is her first year.
Get them from the supermarket or farm.
It's more efficient for me to do it.
I'll try not to blow up.
Gotcha.
I'm here for it, so.
Oh, good.
What's that? Well, I'm glad I took tonight off.
I'm gonna,
Yes.
you know,
Which,
Glad this is the last week.
market basket was $6.
you
I'm
know,
glad we don't have school board tomorrow, because then well, we do actually have a school board meeting, but it's a short one.
Short one.
Just to finalize the stuff.
These were not certified organic, these were.
We
just-
didn't actually vote on
Buy
ours
certified
yet.
organic.
Oh, yeah.
He buys whatever,
Recommendations. I mean, that's,
if you can buy the dented can of something that's
think
3
we're,
cents
yeah.
cheaper than the real.
That was my only concern
I think we might
was
buy a tech one.
the merit thing and the mowing, as long as it's 4%.
Yeah, it's good to know
I
more
would
information. I
As long as it's
wasn't aware
4%,
of that either.
I'm really good. I'm really good with the budget and how it came out. I really don't have anything else to say about it.
With $6 a dozen.
It's so crazy.
So the merit's enough to pay.
They did such a good job with
Well,
just
that was
getting it
an
to 4%.
interesting- Well, yeah, it helps if you dump 100,000 out and move it to the road. I mean,
Well, I
that's a
mean,
big help.
That is a big help, but it's not real. It's not real. You're
so
just
we
pushing
just
moving money
didn't go there.
around.
I mean, we'll get there.
They're,
Yeah,
We went over this many times before even getting there.
you're not driving out of your way.
Where was 100,000 coming from?
You're never
We
gonna.
had a hard time finding the extra 76 to get, after we already took the 100 away. Imagine trying to cut 177.
No way.
Where was the 100 coming from?
I have no.
We had to find some place to take a big
No, I
number.
mean, you guys were definitely strong arm there. I mean, there's no way you can take it, and you can take it, but we're still obviously gonna need it, and we're still just gonna ask for it again.
Right, well, I never pay any.
But if you think about it too, the road projects,
I agree with him.
many of them are one time or once every 20-year
Mm-hmm.
projects. They're not like, it's not like repairs of the building where there's maintenance that you have to do on an annual basis, so. I mean,
Well,
it's almost
Nottingham-
like it's more appropriate for one or.
And I mean, our town is so old too. Like the roads are old, the
300
buildings
years.
are old. Like you know what I mean? Like everything is old. And with Chris leaving, he did a great job of making sure everything looks good. Looks good. So it's, I know.
But people, I mean, people come to this town, like I came to town because of the affordability, right? I got coworkers in Epping, he pays 14,000 in property
Yeah.
tax, okay? That's reality.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, it's a great town, my kids were born and raised here, you know what I mean?
We're
When I-
cheap.
When
We
I
are
popped in this
cheap.
town, I knew, I've been looking for 2 years, right? When I popped in, I just knew it. You know, you just had like, this is it.
Yeah.
Right, it was like, wow, and everything
love
looks good
living
on
here.
paper until you start driving around looking at everything, you know what I mean?
I love
Hey,
living
you
here.
want to know something too? Just remember this for right now. This is fixes, but the lower we keep our property values, our budget. Let's say our tax rate keeps staying at $20, which is wonderful for the overall. That drives the cost of new homes higher, and it costs your home you're living now higher. So when they go to do a
I
reval,
cannot remember their names.
they're using the numbers of what houses around selling, and if all these houses, if the same ranch that sells in Nottingham for 600,000 sells in Epping for 350, because Epping's at $27 per thousand and Nottingham's at 21,
Okay, she.
it still offsets the same way,
Yeah.
because that's what's happening
Her
now.
husband's friend, and she was.
You go look at a colonial that's happening over there, and a colonial that's happening here. The ranches that they're building over there.
If you sell.
Right, if you sell, but I mean, your tax rate is going to be, is based on what sells. So your house is revalued every 5 years to
Right.
say, okay, we think
Right,
a ranch house in Nottingham,
comps.
exactly.
But it's what people's willing to pay, because the also,
But again-
my neighborhood went over, the bank says, no, they.
That's the one you
They
get it
was like a
from?
battle one, they paid more
Sure.
and above what the bank was even
Sure.
assessing it for, right, because they wanted it so bad.
And our assessments are still low no matter what. Everybody that's selling a house in Nottingham is selling way over the assessed
Way
value.
over.
No one's actually I look at it all the time. No one actually says, well, the town has me assessed at 350 and wow, I'm struggling to get that 350. No, you're not.
It depends if you're underwater, if you're taking, home
Okay.
equity lines out on your house.
That's your own,
Then that's your
that's your
fault.
own personal fault.
Yeah.
That's not the town's fault.
That's not the
That's
town's
house
fault.
That's your personal, that you have bad management, you can't do it. And I even feel this too is where you go look and, even this year we saw ours in front of the board, the amount of people that are coming in for abatements and stuff, it dropped. Like, it was barely any that we had to sign up. The abatements we were seeing were people for getting their tax credits for their, because they're military or whatever, and they're filling those forms out. No one. And then you can even go on the town report and just pick a street, any street, and go look, and you can see who's paying their taxes.
Yeah.
And Sammy
It's all
is the
proof,
first
it's all
name
right
on
there.
our-
Right.
There's 98% of this town
Call Sammy.
is paying their taxes
Well,
on
they're
time, no problem.
responsible people, it's a good thing.
And that's the
But-
thing,
but
though.
You got
You
people
can't-
on fixed incomes,
He's in
your,
charge of
your
all the
taxes
food.
keep going up, they have to take a home equity line just to stay in the house, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but then
We
you
know
take
people, I
away,
know people, I think, they
you
start
take away
cutting
from
their
the other
forest, the trees to pay their
I,
property tax.
okay, so I have like the same dilemma
you
as
take away from the
though,
people that
right?
can pay,
What's that?
and you take away the stuff from them. You say, well,
That's
because
what
you
it
can
is.
pay, we're gonna cut our rec department, because the old people can't pay for it,
That would be
but,
my guess. too.
that's too bad. You're
Well, he
taking
didn't
the
say
loss
cut
for
it, he
them.
says just make the parents pay, right, their fair share, or however you want
I
to say
brought that up too, but that didn't work.
I'm going to go in,
You know.
well, I drive.
I
and
mean,
go
I think
to
that's my dilemma, like, for my age, for my demographic, like, for everything. Like, I don't wanna see people, older people on fixed incomes get kicked out, people who've been living here for years and years and years and years and years, right? But at the same time, that's not my personal situation, right? And like, my kids and my husband and me, like,
That's the one I was
invested
thinking of.
our
That's the one
business,
I-
our kids' education, everything into the town as well.
Right.
And so like, when those services don't happen, the kind of
Yeah.
demographic that a low-income community attracts is also not the reason why I
Yeah,
love.
we're
not
all
the-
dual income now.
Not the reason why I love Nottingham. I love Nottingham because of the way it is. So like, I feel like I sit on that fence of like, sure, I can afford it, but I'm also thinking about other people too. So like, I want to meet in the happy medium, and like, I think they've done a good job here. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have a diehard like, we need to cut taxes all the time, and I don't have a diehard like, school, raise taxes,
No,
raise
but
taxes.
we were
but,
saying, like, I'd rather have the library paved than the Marston property paved, right? Now, like just like the $60,000 community well, it took 300 years to find out we need a community well, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I'm saying, it's a
True.
pet project, okay?
Yeah.
I talked to that guy at work, he's a master, he's in Lakeville, right? He goes, it's such a responsibility that their town doesn't even use that water. They show it to neighboring towns where they can afford it because there's a liability. If someone gets sick drinking that water, the filter's got to be replaced. You got to test it, right? So there's liability for the town there now, right? Because you're telling, hey, this is fresh drinking water. Help yourself. You know what I mean? So you just got to watch.
We'll see what he
you
does
know.
at-
And that's why I said is the well fracked.
That's what the lights
I know you asked that.
Okay, because everyone knows you burn up the pump and, the well and everything else. Or how many zones the sprinklers are on, right? You have to have more zones. Right? You know what I mean? Well, I put sprinklers in myself in my house, so I know. Just, you don't have to do is research and homework. You know? That's all. I just want to make a good decision. Or like, whoa, hey.
Same. It's not easy.
I didn't know anything about wells and septics, right? And when I was moving here, I did all my
Purchasing the
homework
second
because that's all you
ambulance.
had, well and septic. I knew everything about both systems.
So that's the second one. And then they have just,
How are you? Good to
miss
see
it?
you.
in the town hall, we've got to replace water pressure tanks, and they just approved that.
Coming back
Yeah,
on.
there's openings.
I think that's the only other thing that they, I'll
Selectmen? Sure, come aboard.
spend it, which
Nice.
then right around 200,000.
What are we doing? Not just
Pots of money that came
Are you
from
guys
the
on-
state There's 129 has to be spent on highway or highway equipment.
That's the block funds or whatever?
Yes. We get an annual block grant revenue sheet.
Lucky dog.
It shows
What are we paying for? Can we cut it?
Don't tell Tom, he'll try to cut it.
last year,
Oh, I was gonna run for that too.
the money,
I'm not nervous. I'm not even running for that. I'm done.
this 92 can only be spent on bridges, it can't be spent on culverts.
We ready?
They're under
Bridge
bridges
is 10 feet.
Boss,
Less than
ready?
10 feet's a culvert.
in diameter or,
It was nice seeing you, Michael.
Width underneath.
gotcha.
Width underneath. So,
All right.
we've got like 7 that we can
I need to
spend.
cut him off, but
That's all it can be.
I wanna go home too.
This can be spent on highway, so that's where the truck is.
Does that have to be spent this year?
No,
Okay, that's
We
great.
have to finish everything.
those two are
Yeah.
open-ended. Opera actually doesn't have to be committed even until next year.
Oh, sorry, I wrote notes on your own
All right,
paper.
we're gonna resume the meeting. So let's go over it.
Start with revenue?
Sure. All right, let's start with revenues.
All right,
Go for it.
I'll make a motion that we accept the revenues as presented.
Is this, do we have an actual revenues form?
Yeah,
Where is it?
You're looking at it right here.
It's filled out online.
yeah.
No, but isn't there like an MS four
So we'll fill it
34?
out after that, but after this or whatever, yeah.
Yeah, we have to see it before we can accept it and approve it.
No?
Before you
No?
sign it, you'll see it, but you
Right.
need to vote it, so I
We're
can.
approving
enter it.
this right here.
I need
We're
to
approving
enter
these
it.
Oh, you're gonna
numbers.
put these in the
Chicken
form,
or egg?
and then we'll sign that.
Yes.
It's on the form, and then you sign the form.
No secrets.
All right.
Chicken or egg? You know, it's like the same with this. We do a
Right,
budget before.
but I don't think this is how we got it last year. I think last year we got the form,
Maybe.
like, it-
I don't know how they did
We
it
had,
last
we had
year.
a different town administrator last year.
yes.
All right.
So you move to accept the revenue of $2,295,791?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
This is the revenue projection?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll second the motion.
All those in favor of the proposed budget?
Wait.
No, proposed revenue.
Proposed revenue, sorry.
I was gonna say yes.
Okay.
Oh, I thought you had a question.
No,
Or discussion.
Just trying to stay
I
ahead
was
of the
voting and
game.
raising my hand and all that stuff.
I knew what
Getting
you were
us right
doing.
along.
All those in favor? Say aye.
I'll take $2 million any day of the week.
That's everybody on the board, minus Owen, Frank Gray, and Tom Lavelle.
Passed 9-0.
And that was the revenue. I already know.
Go through article by article, I guess.
Okay.
Can we make any changes to the articles or the numbers on the article?
We could make motions to request that the board does it, but I
No, it
don't
should be
think we
done at
can do it.
deliberative.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think
Yeah, we can
deliberative.
Change the budget.
You can recommend them, you can't
Right.
change
We
them.
Yeah.
can change the budget, but we
Right, because
can't.
this doesn't have nothing
But
to do
the
with the
other
budget
ones, we
articles.
either recommend or not recommend.
Yeah, we can make suggestions, but it's up to
But
the
that's
board,
it.
the selectmen to do it.
Right,
And
you
then
can
at
make the
deliberative
motion at
session,
deliberative.
yeah, at deliberative session, when everybody goes, if anybody has any grievances or wants to say anything about that, then they can make a motion to change it there, and then it gets changed.
Okay.
But yeah, if you have any ideas, you can run them
Article 80,
by
we're just gonna
the
put
Johns
the
here.
proposed budget in there.
That-
From the fourth, this number,
That's the
in
number.
the A.
All right, so I'll make a motion to accept Article A with the sum of $4,842,866.
Wait, John, we're accepting it?
Recommend.
Recommending.
You're recommending the operating budget of $4,482,000.
Yeah,
Right, that's the motion.
we're doing the recommends and don't recommends right now.
Yeah, shouldn't we go through the budget
But we have to
first?
go through the budget before we
Well,
can.
Yeah, that's
Right,
part of it?
Making the motion so we can have a discussion.
All right.
I,
So now's your turn to discuss.
I'll second.
All right, so now we can have discussion.
I will make a motion on the budget. Line number, make sure I got the right one here. 22, and I don't mean to step on anyone's toes about the Pawtuckaway Lake and the milfoil. I love the lake. I think people are doing a great job with the milfoil, and I appreciate their work, so it's nothing personal. I just don't feel like that is something that belongs in the yearly town budget. I would recommend to the board to take that 5,000 and add it to the amount on the warrant article, and to keep this line as a warrant article line.
So I believe, but Michael, is this correct? Michael Kelly moved to amend the budget by removing $5,000 from the, and you want to tell me the line number?
Line number 22,
Line 22, and it's called,
EX Pawtuckaway Lake Advisory,
Bad name, but it's really not.
milfoil relief money.
Yeah.
So it's just,
your,
And where would that go?
He wants to move it.
Well, you can't move it to the warrant
I
article. so-
can't move it, but
Well,
I
we
would.
recommend-
I would recommend that
Where
that
would you
fund-
recommend it go? That's what
and
I
you
meant.
recommend
the-
the Board of Selectmen add it to the,
warrant
Warrant
article,
article,
add 15. Cause it shows there's like 40,000 in there now, and they used nothing last year,
I,
if this is
Article
correct.
I.
warrant article I.
So, but for purposes of this motion, it just reduces the budget by $5,000.
Right.
That's all we
that's
can do
correct.
now, yeah.
I think we need to be clear on the motion, so when we're voting on it, we're clear on what we're voting.
But we can include that, our suggestion in the motion. It's not a binding thing.
Yeah, that's
Right,
fine.
right, you can include a suggestion, but it's not binding.
Yeah, I just wanna make sure it's not deleted. I have nothing against that. I just think it's best served on a warrant article.
so what I have is that Michael Kelly moved to amend the budget by removing $5,000 from line 22, ex Pawtuckaway Lake Advisory, and recommend to the Board of Selectmen to add it to the warrant article on invasive species.
Yep, article I
Yes.
for invasive.
Does anybody want to second the motion?
I'll second that.
I would support that, especially given that the invasive species fund that's in Article I is very exclusionary and specific, that it only applies basically to this. If that's what it's gonna be about, then, you know, we shouldn't double dip with something in the budget and a warrant article. It might as well just all be the warrant article.
So they
Same thing
serve
with
two
the
different
roads.
purposes. Okay, so this line item in the budget basically funds lake hosting, things like that.
And the lake host is to prevent milfoil from getting in the lake, right?
Right, this is what,
Nothing
right,
to
it's
do with the actual.
milfoil prevention,
Yeah.
not, the other thing is for eradication and remove, you know, basically.
No, it's called the invasive species prevention
Right.
and eradication and removal.
So that.
So that is about preventing milfoil, and this is about preventing milfoil.
Yes, so it was separated out. That other one can fund into this, that's true, but this one is very specific. And it was basically to pay for a recurring fee, where the other one is more of a savings account.
Which for years, when it was not in the budget, this committee recommended putting it into the budget because it is an annual cost that in order to get the matching money from the state, there has to be a contribution, which is very minimal compared to what they actually spend to address the issue, and to pay the lake hosts.
But we
And it's a
ultimately,
recurring annual cost, which should be in the budget and not in the warrant.
ultimately, the goal of the town isn't to get some matching funds and keep paying for this.
Right.
The goal of the town is to get the state, which owns most of the land around the lake and owns the lake itself, to get the state to fund the milfoil reduction in the invasive species.
Not the goal
And
of
if
the
we
citizens of the
continue,
town. That might be your personal goal, but that
that's
is not.
probably the goal of the taxpayers. But
It's,
if we continue to fund and we put in our budget and everything for this, then the state is never going to pay for
State's never
milfoil
gonna-
cleanup.
pay anyway, actually, they've probably spent more money here than they spent anywhere else in the
I
state.
disagree that they're never gonna pay for it. I think we're sending them a wrong signal. We have money in two different spots, and
I thought they removed this last year and then it got added back in at the.
Well, deliberative session, yeah.
So
That's what
we
happened.
removed it last
Back in the
year, they just
deliberative.
added it back in. So we're trying
So
to
let's
remove
make
it
a-
again this year.
Do y'all wanna
Yeah,
make
we
a
can
vote
just
for
do
it
that
then?
again, and we can discuss it at deliberative.
That's true.
But I think it's important to send the message to the state that the town's not gonna just continue to dump a bunch of money into this, and that we really look to the state to take responsibility, especially when Pawtuckaway State Park is such a huge moneymaker. It's the second most income-producing property for the
That's-
state park system.
That's impressive. I would
And
never guess
they could
that.
very easily fund this with like a 25-cent charge on each campsite.
Yeah, but they're not gonna do that, so, whatever.
Well, they're never gonna do it if you don't, if we keep
Let's
paying
vote.
for it.
Let's vote.
Let's vote.
Sure.
All those in favor of reducing line 22 to 0
And recommending
and,
it to.
and
yeah.
recommending it that it go back on the warrant article, which is just a recommendation. Say aye.
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 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 in favor, and those who say nay. 4, 5, 5. All right, so the $5,000 is staying on. Okay.
Do we want to discuss line 5 merit compensation pool? Were we good with John and Donna's?
I am good with that.
They
If that
explained
keeps
that
it
it-
at 4%.
They explained a lot. I wasn't
think-
aware of that either.
No, I think if it wasn't that way, I'd have a problem with
Yeah.
it, but the way that John explained it, I'm totally fine with it.
And so one of the reasons that I recommended the full budget was because sticking to that 4% is really tight. I mean, obviously, we know that, we can see that. But leaving that, if we decided we wanted to basically say, oh, take some money out of something and move it to this line, the selectmen already have that authority by just leaving it.
Mm-hmm.
What was it last year, the budget for the town? Was it like 4.7 or something? Remember it was over 10
here.
originally? It was over 10, I thought, last year.
Budget last year for what? For the whole,
He's asking what the increase was.
Yeah, it was just what the increase was. Because I know originally it started out like 10 and they worked it really good and they got it down like 4 point something
oh,
or.
the original? from
The
last
original
year?
was like 9%.
Original- it was like
increase or something.
11.
It's
Yeah, it was over
crazy.
10. It was.
Oh,
like-
yeah.
We got like warned
That's
before
like
we
a
looked
wish
at the
list.
number.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. No, so I'm good with line
But
5.
I'm just saying, what did it come into last year? I know it was 4.
I know it was in the
over.
4s, but I don't remember off the top of my head.
So when they say, hey, it's tough, budget cap 4%, well, they brought, from over 10% down to 4.
Right, oh yeah, their
Mm-hmm.
recognition is always there for sure, because the modifications we do to it, and they do to it is extensive, so.
The newsletter, we had a consensus to lower that by 1,700 to encourage a move to paperless.
What line are you on?
Oh, it's 22.
Thank you.
We had
You
a
had a
consensus to
No, not
reduce.
22.
What?
You had a consensus?
22 is
That was the consensus.
We didn't vote on a consensus.
We didn't vote on it, but we agreed that if we have to cut money, that these were numbers that we would recommend to the select board to look at.
Right.
The select board didn't cut anything from that, and I'm wondering if we shouldn't make a slight reduction to the newsletter line and move the money to the road maintenance, just to encourage, to give an impetus, because if we don't change the number at all, there's no motivation to, look into how do we make this paperless.
So Alonzo,
right?
you trying to move? I'm sorry.
He's 23.
I'm wondering if we want to take a little money off of number 22, X newsletter,
23.
and
23.
move it to, oh, sorry. Ooh, look at that, it's different on the 2 pages.
It's different on the 2 pages.
Interesting. Yeah, so moving some of that money to the road maintenance.
I'm good on moving it, just because last year it was $9,044, we're budgeting under, so, and even in 21, it came in over, 22 came in over, so if anything, we should have added money to it, but if we have if we even have a scan on the newsletter, people could download it digitally then, so then we don't have to worry about this line being high. But I don't think reducing it's gonna be the answer, cause we're just gonna end up overspending on it.
Yeah,
by
and
more.
instead of even going for the 1,700 that we had talked about, what if we make it 1,500 and we just recommend with the 200 we didn't take or something like that? Explore if there's a
Good.
mailing list program or something that you guys can use to.
I'm good on $200, to
Yeah.
be honest. I mean, if we can find more money somewhere else, I'm up for it, but I'm not gonna stress about like five.
Doesn't matter.
like
No, I'm saying if
20
we,
line
if we,
23.
yeah, I'm saying if we reduce line 23 by $1,700 and move that $1,700 into road maintenance.
And you can make a motion for it, but
Doesn't matter.
I don't know
It
that it
doesn't even
matters,
matter.
cause
What matters that then we'll have money to maintain our roads
we're
because
just
if
gonna
this warrant
overspend on this
article.
line, so.
Right, but if this warrant article doesn't pass, we might not have enough money to maintain our roads. If we don't have enough money, there might not be an 8th newsletter or whatever.
So the budget thing here sits here is everybody has a line item for what we're allocating, what each expense is gonna be.
Yep.
If they don't spend the 1,700 and the highway department goes over 1,700, we're
We'll
just
go
gonna
there.
move the 1,700 out of there and throw it into the
Right.
highway automatically.
Probably any extra money.
We just can't
or the opposite
overexpend
way.
the
Right.
4,866,000 if we can't overexpend that amount. So if something catastrophe or bad happens and we have to go over that amount, we have to go to the state, we have to petition an emergency fund, I mean, and it doesn't show good for our town to do it. But we can still, and that's one of the problems when we have a 4% budget, what we did this year, is the fact that, we're not leaving any emergency fund in our budget
For
Same
anything.
for us.
for anything that, if something bad, we have something and, we can't get federal funding for it because, well, something blew out or something happened or,
Well, about, John, what's the balance of the general fund?
How do you mean balance?
Isn't there money when we
the fund balance is what it's
we have a
talking
fund
about.
balance,
Oh,
right?
okay, that-
Unassigned fund balance or something like that, right?
Yeah, we carry an unassigned fund balance, but you can't spend for it without going to DRA and emergency.
Right. But we have a savings account essentially for the town that we can spend if
But
there's an
remember, that's,
emergency.
we keep that for that one time. Once it goes away, we have to rebuild it for the next
Right.
time it goes away. But we
means
leave
more
no
money.
extra money in here to rebuild.
For anything.
We have to
Right,
do
but
that
I'm saying that is the extra money.
The answer
For
is
that
2 million.
first time problem. But the second time problem,
Yeah.
if we don't have any extra money that we don't spend here to go into that fund, the fund never gets raised.
Just saying, we're sitting on a $2 million, we got a $2 million rainy day fund,
The state
just in
requires, the
case.
state recommends that we have at 12% of our,
Yeah,
but so it's really not,
12% of our budget?
well, it's different, not that, but.
12% of the-
Because that's like 50% of our budget.
8 and 17%, wasn't it? Something like that they
Yes.
recommended.
Yeah.
We landed at 12.
Yes,
We're halfway in between, right, we're in that, that's what I meant.
we ended at 12, 2.3 is just a little over, 2.2 is actually 12%, which is why we took 100,000 and used it for offsetting some of the articles that you've already read.
Did you say 2.2 is 12%?
Yes. It's 12% of, you have to count how much we have to pay the school, it's on a cash flow
Oh, it counts the school,
basis.
okay.
It's not-
Schools too.
Say no more, I know where you got that number, yeah.
Okay, yeah,
Okay,
because it's cash flow for us, we have to pay the school to keep them going.
do we have any more discussion
We are
for
your
the
rainy day
budget?
fund.
So essentially what John is saying, John, is that it
This one.
doesn't make any sense for us to cut a little bit out of one line and move it into road maintenance
agree.
because you can essentially do that.
Cause they're gonna already, yeah, they're gonna do that already. if we
Okay,
listen
that's good to know. So if we wanna make cuts or anything.
This is
to
basically, so when
they should
the
be
average
cuts.
person comes, or even like us to look at it, when you go down, you say, well, where did $4 million go? We can actually show you on paper, roughly, here's the broken down of where we think the 4 million is gonna be spent over the course of the 300 line items. That's what it's for.
Okay.
that. Thank you, John.
No, no problem. Keep moving on.
Yeah,
9 o'clock.
I know.
That's all right. I took a vacation day. I'm good to go all night.
I did too.
I had to work tonight, so I'm like,
Oh no, I took today.
you gotta do what you gotta do,
I
right?
skipped school.
It's a mental health day, okay?
Well, it's easy to get Tuesdays off, you know what I mean? Than a weekend.
All right, anything else in the budget that you guys want to discuss or move around before before I take a vote? 'Cause we've already had the motion, it's already been seconded.
I mean, they have a cap. They came in with the cap. I mean, is what it is, right? Did a
Yeah.
Good job.
And with giving all the raises out this year,
I'm just glad you
12%,
explained
so.
this stuff, because we were concerned, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Another, you know, a lot of us were.
we
didn't know how
are
things
very
work.
fiscally responsible. I mean, you're taxpayers like everybody else.
Right.
We all, and everybody that sits on our board is doing everything they can for what is we feel is gonna be the best for the town.
Yeah.
There's no individualism here, there's no person with a certain general
Maybe a
goal.
couple pet projects, but.
Yeah.
I'll
Well,
say,
no,
I'll
we-
say no more, but.
All right, so.
There's a couple, I'm sure, sitting on this board, there's a couple reasons why people have their reasons for being here too, so everybody has a reason for what they do, but.
True.
And we appreciate it,
Enjoy
John.
it.
We do appreciate John.
You know, in most years, you guys have not even come close to a 4% increase.
Right.
I think, you know, this is an odd year with so much inflation and stuff, but
I'm
that's,
very proud of what we
Yeah.
did, so.
yeah, I'm glad, and I'm glad that you guys took it seriously, and
All right, so all those in favor of approving the 2023 proposed budget, 4,842,
Recommending.
yes. 4,842,866.
do we want to,
482,866.
before we do that, did we want to make any changes to the Marsden mowing and seeding and fertilizing things to say to move that to a warrant article?
No,
I didn't
Sorry,
personally.
you were right, I was wrong. You were right.
Okay.
I think that becomes difficult,
Why?
just because it is a maintenance item. I mean,
But it's a new maintenance item.
right, yes, it is a new maintenance item. It's expensive, I get it. I am not thrilled that we're spending lots of money there myself, but, you know,
I think we can cut some of it.
Yeah. And I mean, this is, if you're not thrilled, this is the time to address it, because next year it will be, well, that's a maintenance item that we're stuck with.
but it goes back to the thing is like, the selectmen have made their mind. I think that if we cut money out of that line, we're basically cutting it from someplace else.
Well, why don't we move it to someplace else, like the road
Because it
maintenance?
doesn't matter.
It does matter.
It doesn't matter.
I don't buy into that, because if you were just talking about raises and stuff like that, so if you took it out of 153, library heat, you stick it in there, put it in raises, it goes to those people. That does matter.
It matters to those people.
Yeah, otherwise, we wouldn't have any of this, and we would just have a big fat number, which we already do, but there would be no explanation for it. All of these lines dictate, for the most part, from my understanding,
Where the money goes, where it's allocated.
Absolutely.
So,
Right, that's why they're on
so we
there.
can't just sit around here and say it doesn't matter, or it's just gonna get moved, or it's just gonna go up, or
Well,
it's just gonna go down.
when you talk about $200, $300, when you talk about 5,000, that makes a huge difference. in
We're
somebody's
talking about
pocket.
16,000, that's what we,
That's a
that's
huge,
what we learned is
absolute
gonna cost
huge amount.
to mow and
Yeah,
fertilize and
I didn't-
create these.
Oh, I understand why you're talking about
I
it.
didn't mention a figure, but if we're gonna look at all this and say it doesn't matter, we might as well just go home. Seriously.
John, is it too late for them to put another warrant article that just says $16,000 for fertilizing, seeding, and mowing Marsden?
No.
yes, it is.
It's not petition, it would just be the boards.
It's
Yeah,
our-
board select.
The board,
We'd have to have another hearing to
yeah,
vote
you
on.
need to have another hearing on it, so that the budget committee would have to recess this at the end and continue for for coming back on the assumption that there was going to be a warrant article, but that,
We'll be here Thursday.
Can you introduce a new warrant article like that at town meeting when they, at the end of the thing, they say to conduct any other lawful business? No?
Not town meeting.
the voters have to know what could come up, and that's not something they would be aware of if they stayed at home, that it was gonna happen.
Gotcha.
And we're not in town meeting format, so how can?
And it can't be rolled into one of these other things? Because some of these are pretty,
Well, it is kinda rolled into the operating budget.
Yeah, but it does, I guess, I think some people are feeling that it doesn't belong there.
well, the problem with rolling it into the operating budget is because the choice that we give the voter is between this operating budget or the default budget, which is more money.
Well, no, well, the
You
default.
can't really
budget's
vote
less.
against
Default
this
is less.
spending.
Less.
The
Default
default
is
is
less.
less.
Is it?
It is now, yeah.
Oh,
Before another one.
I looked at it
wasn't.
earlier.
$300,000.
No, because it went up, the numbers changed. So that's what I'm saying, we go back and forth, but,
Yeah.
I mean, what happens if the taxpayers vote on the default budget, 4,500,000, you're losing 300,000, where's it come from then? Because usually they do it, every year they've been doing it, so what do we do? You know what I mean? It's,
So I
you
think
know,
we could, I think
will
we
you
could
take
put-
it out of the 2 million surplus, 300? 300,000.
No, you have to find 300,000 to take out of budget.
But everyone always votes, I see it all the time, they always vote for the default budget, let's raise taxes, okay? So,
Not always, but.
not always,
A lot of
The
times
proposed
they do,
budget,
but-
yeah.
what's that?
I mean, we've voted on the proposed budget rather than going through like
So
default.
this is only the second
Like
year.
last year, the town had, the proposed budget
Budget,
passed.
yeah.
This is only the second.
It passed because it was less,
No, it wasn't. The
This is-
school
Oh, the
budget was
school was,
less.
that's
The
This is
town was
only
not.
the second year that the town is having a default budget.
And it was, the proposed was higher than the default last year and it passed for the town.
Yeah.
So the proposed budget is higher than the default. So so if we were to lower the proposed budget by $16,000, taking out the new work from Marsden, that would lower that number and people might be more likely to vote for this proposed and responsible budget than the default budget, which is gonna cause all kinds of headaches if that's the decision.
I don't think this is gonna make or break that decision though.
It makes a difference for me though, sitting here.
Can we take a vote on this, because I think we're gonna be discussing all along.
We haven't even made a motion yet.
Pretty set in
Well,
where it's gonna
there is a
go.
motion on the table right now to accept the proposed budget for 2023.
Well, before
That's
we.
the only thing that's open right now.
I'll make a motion that we remove the $16,000 from line 337, which
It's
was.
335 on the new form.
Sorry.
I'm just clarifying it.
Yes, yes. Well, I should be looking at the right one. This one has different notes, which I like, so. All right, line 335, Parkfield Beach Maintenance and Mowing, that has a substantial increase to it. In years past, it's been around 12,000, now it's 25,000. And we learned tonight, a lot of that is the new Marsden fields. So the mowing on that is probably about 10, we heard from Donna. Seeding and fertilizing costs are 6,000. So I would say that we remove the 16,000 from this line to get it back down. In fact, why don't we just make it 15 that way? Because I don't know if that was a good number between the distribution of, we don't want to make sure that, these existing fields are not maintained.
So you wanna,
I want to reduce it from 25,000 to 10,000.
okay.
And then encourage the select board to find a way to put that money onto a warrant article so that the townspeople can evaluate it separately
that's
from
on
the
the-
operating budget.
That's that's what you're proposing?
Yeah.
Okay.
I second that motion.
Can I just ask a procedure question?
Is that?
Do you have a motion and a first on the operating budget, a motion and a second on the operating budget?
We did,
Okay, so,
We have to rescind that one,
we
but
do.
Okay, whatever, so, what, yeah, sorry.
No, we're rescinding the original motion of accepting the budget
Right,
because,
we already had discussion on it and another motion and vote, so yeah.
so while
I-
we were discussing the
I
budget,
will-
If I may, I believe he could make the motion to amend the motion
Yes.
that's on the
That's,
floor.
exactly,
rather than to
that's
remove-
really.
I'll do
That's-
what John is suggesting.
Okay, thank you, that's
Thank
how
you.
you do it.
Should I restate it, or? I would make the motion that, I would say that we amend the motion to approve it, and if no one else has any other cuts, then we would be approving it with a
15,000
15,000 reduction to line 335, taking out the money for mowing, seeding, and fertilizing Marsden fields. And otherwise approving it. Because unless anybody else has any more changes, that was the only one I could think of,
The last one I had.
yeah.
All right. Are we ready to vote on the amendment?
yeah, all right. It's a long-winded amendment,
Did you second the amendment?
I second the amendment.
okay.
I have the motion as move to amend the operating budget by reducing it by 15,000 from line 335, rec Parkfield beach maintenance, plowing, mowing. Is that accurate?
Yeah, plowing
For-
isn't in the description, but yes.
Specifically for the mowing, seeding, and fertilizing costs at Marsden.
All those in favor of the motion on the table, say aye.
Aye.
Right?
1, 2, 3, 4. All those who oppose? It's 5. So the motion failed. So it's gonna stay at 25,000 as of right now. So we move forward with the other motion?
If there's no other
If there's
amendments.
no other amendments that we'd like to discuss, that was too hard to.
Do we vote to accept this budget and propose it, and
That's
then we
right,
do the
that-
recommendation?
Yes,
Okay.
Yep.
Are those separate acts?
I
Yeah.
guess, yeah, I guess,
right.
technically, right, cause I made the motion to put that
Accept this.
value in there.
Yep. So then we can vote
Well, I
on
guess
the
I'd
A.
recommend.
You know, that makes sense, though, yeah.
Right, to vote on this.
The good
and then-
value, yeah, yeah. So then we could
All
write
right,
a recommend or not,
so
yeah.
now we're moving forward with, we're recommending the proposed budget.
Yeah, I have John Decker move to recommend the operating budget of $4,842,866.
Yes, sir.
Warrant Article A, Carol Martin seconded.
Yes, sir.
That's the underline.
All
Okay.
right, all those in favor of approving the recommended proposed
Wait, he said-
2023 budget?
To clarify, we're approving that this is what we're submitting.
That's
Yes.
right, this is
We're
the
not,
number.
we're not voting for what it's gonna show on Article A.
It's the amount that
It's- that's what's gonna
populates
be
Article
in
A.
there.
Okay,
We're just
But we're
voting on
not-
the bottom line, that this is a
Bottom line.
good number.
Yep.
okay.
And that's gonna be in Article A.
Yes.
Yes.
Article A
All right.
is prescribed by law.
That's gonna be
Yes.
the language and the number that's there in
Yeah.
Article A.
All right, all those in favor of that? Yeah, aye.
Aye.
So, everybody on the board. Thank you.
All right.
All right, moving on to the warrant articles.
So, does this one get a budget committee recommendation, or just that it
Yep.
is?
Because it doesn't look like it, I don't
'Cause
see
it
any,
doesn't actually say. in
the
bottom.
select board doesn't have that on there.
Oh,
It should have budget committee.
Maybe they were waiting for the final
You're
number?
gonna have to recommend all of them that the selectmen recommended.
We've voted on
We
that in the
don't-
past, I
Don't we
believe.
vote, don't we recommend this one?
The proposed
Always
budget?
have.
Hang on, I'm looking in.
My guess is that the select board is waiting to get a final number before they.
That's the
You
reason
could- we
why,
could
that
wildly
is the
change
reason why we did not vote on it last
Okay.
night.
Alright,
Right, but we would vote.
We would vote.
Well, you just voted.
No, we voted on the
Nope.
number, we didn't vote whether or not we recommended it.
The proposed or
I
the
thought we
default?
voted recommended.
we voted to approve this document with this number on it, and that would let
Okay.
us fill this X's in so that we know what we're voting to recommend or not.
Okay.
Yep.
Are you,
All
wanted
right,
to be
do you
very
want me to
sure what I was
read
voting for.
the articles again
I don't think. you
out
have
loud?
to.
Because
Well,
it's just
let's
us.
confirm the total. What is
All
the
right,
total?
so the total is gonna be $4,842,866 as the proposed budget in Article A.
So John, I got a question. Before we vote if we're gonna recommend this or not, should the article be defeated, will you guys get the default budget? Now, that's just the number, right? You guys still,
That last
you
year's
can
budget.
still use this to guide you in how you spend the money, right? You don't have to go pull whatever default budget thing and use the numbers that were in there, right?
Right, because they can still transfer money between funds.
Yeah.
Total money.
Yeah, it's still
Total.
300, I mean,
Right.
this is a scenario I don't even wanna go to,
Less
but.
money.
Hopefully not. But yeah, that's how they would get it. They would just reappropriate all the money within
Yeah.
the line items.
I just wanna make sure that's what it would be, if the default passes, that you can still use the guidance and the decisions that you've made, you're not stuck with whatever was in the default.
All right.
Okay.
Just
all the-
affects the bottom line number to be raised, right?
Yeah, I mean, that would be, again, I don't even, right.
All those in favor of
Can I
recommending?
get a confirmation from the town administrator on that?
Motion, I think.
Oh,
Right.
I'm ahead of
I'll make a-
myself here.
I'll make a motion that we recommend Article A with the, whatever that number is, $4,842,866 as the operating budget. Do I need to read the whole thing?
No,
I don't think.
no.
I second it.
All those in favor of accepting the proposed budget of $4,842,866?
Accepting or recommending?
Recommending Article A. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7, and 2. Oh, all those who say nay to the Article A.
Opposed.
Opposed. Okay, all those abstained. 2 abstained, thank you. All right, moving along, Article B. Select Board recommends it 5-0. And we don't need
to see if the town will vote and raise
to.
90,000 to be added to previously established town building maintenance and expendable trust fund. The sum is to come from unassigned fund balance. The expendable trust is used to repair of heating, plumbing, or other major systems in town buildings facilities.
I don't think we gotta read them all. I think we went
Alright.
over them earlier, so I'm cool with this
The
one.
Board of Selectmen
I move that we
recommends it.
recommend it.
I'll make a motion to recommend Article B as written.
Second.
All those in favor of recommending Article B as written? Everybody on the board, thank you.
I will make a motion to accept Article C as written, which is to raise and appropriate 400,000 for highway reconstruction.
I'll second.
I assume you mean to recommend as written,
Recommend as
Recommend
written.
As written. What did I say?
except or
Except,
something.
I keep,
I
yeah,
know,
sorry.
our lingo's messed up
Sorry.
today.
Recommend.
Robert Kelly, second.
Oh, okay.
All those in favor of accepting Article C as written?
Sure.
And that's everybody on the board recommending.
Right. I'll make a motion to recommend Article D to raise and appropriate 90,000 to be used for engineering projects related to roads of the, and the library parking lot.
Do we know what the breakdown was on that, between 90,000, between the road, the culverts and the parking lot?
70 and 20.
And it comes from unassigned fund balance. so.
I mean, those are the budget numbers, whether, what it's actually gonna be will vary, but those are the budget numbers that make
Does anybody wanna second that?
I'm not super happy with those two things being rolled together. They're pretty different things.
Engineering though.
Did you get Carol Martin second that?
that. Oh, I did not.
Okay.
Yeah, but we also have engineering for culverts and stuff in the budget.
Yeah,
It's just weird to roll the library parking lot
Yeah,
into.
but I thought it had a culvert in there, right, or something for
does.
the water? where
There's
it
something
goes.
about stormwater
It's
for
the
the library.
drainage that has to be done, so they wanted to do that before they paved it, because it makes sense, because if
Right.
not, we'll be paving it
They
and then
wanna fix
having
the
to.
sidewalk first,
redo
so
it.
it wasn't, you
Yep.
know, another trip hazard.
So this is for engineering the library parking lot, not paving the library parking lot?
No, I think it's,
Scheduled for 24,
So this is $20,000 to engineer the library parking lot?
yes.
That's ridiculous.
the only thing on there. It's 70-20.
70
The
for the
majority
roads
of
and-
it's gonna be for the culverts on.
Yeah, I'm all right with engineering the culverts for the roads, but like, we're gonna spend 20,000, I mean, what's it gonna cost to pave the library parking lot?
20,000.
Yeah, about 20,000.
It's so expensive.
So
It's
it
on the
has-
CIP.
You're gonna spend twice
It's
as much
coming.
money to do planning?
It's
They
coming.
should just pave it the exact same as it is now. There's probably an exemption in there if you,
And then we'll have to fix
you
it later
do
on
the
down the
exact
road
same-
for more amount.
no. The reason that they're doing the engineering is not because they have an engineering problem. It's because if you do a big parking lot over a certain size or something, you're
Yes.
required to get
That's right.
stormwater engineering. But if you build the exact same size parking lot as you already have, there's no changes to the stormwater, so you shouldn't require new engineering.
I'm not
I
an engineer,
cannot
so I
tell
don't know.
you what the law is.
That's a good, that's
Right.
a good
Well,
question.
what would the difference be? It's already an impervious surface of a certain square footage. If you just put another
It
impervious
depends on
surface of
what
the same
law-
square.
It depends on what
Yeah.
the law is.
Yeah. I don't wanna I'm not gonna recommend $20,000 expenditure to plan
Okay.
a parking lot that costs $20,000.
That's fine, we're gonna vote on
If
it
all you
right
gotta
now,
do
so
is
that's fine.
build it the same size and you don't have to
Right, because I
waste
don't think
20
there's any
grand.
more room
Let's
to
vote
build
on
it.
it and
Yeah.
stop debating it, because we
Sure.
all have
Sounds
opinions.
great.
Everyone's entitled to debate and
Sure.
talk, okay? We're, you know,
I just
rush
don't wanna
everybody.
say the same thing like 9 different times when we can just
Okay.
vote on it, that's all.
I'm just letting you know why I'm gonna vote no on it.
Okay.
I mean, he has a good point.
Sure.
I didn't think of that, you know?
I understand, and hopefully the selectmen have, you know, with Sean or whatever, have done the research to know whether or not they need to legally do this or not.
But if all they considered was making a bigger parking lot and it doesn't matter what
We
the
don't know
costs
what-
are, yeah,
I guess, you know, we should have asked Sean that, like, when he was here.
right.
Right, I don't know if there's room to make one, unless it's,
Right, there's not a lot of room there.
All right, so those in favor of Article D, as written, say aye. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those who oppose Article D? 1, 2, 3.
I'm not sure with all the answers, you know what I mean?
Okay, and then so you want to abstain? All right, so 1 abstain, 3 object. And then the rest of us approve.
That sounds so negative.
I know it does. Okay, Article E, as written.
All right,
I recommend,
go ahead. You gonna recommend?
yes,
Okay.
recommend as written. To see if the town will vote to raise appropriate sum of $6,000 to be used for improvement to library entrance service.
I'll second your motion.
All those in favor of approving Article E as written, say aye. It's 8 of us. Those who oppose? Those who abstain? Thank you. All right, Article,
So what was the vote on that?
it was 8,
801.
Okay,
Article F.
all right. I will make a motion to recommend Article F as written, which appropriates $100,000 to the Highway Tax Capital Reserve Fund.
Second.
All those in favor of recommending Article F as written, please raise your hand.
Yeah. I'm glad he explained to me, because when I was looking at that number, it was 300,000. I didn't realize 260,000 was already spent.
All those who
But it was good
oppose?
information, you know.
Thank you.
Is that 8-1?
8-1.
Thinking trucks are expensive.
They are. Moving on to Article G.
Right, I make a motion to recommend Article G as written, to raise and appropriate $100,000 to be added to the fire vehicle SCBA Capital Reserve Fund.
Second.
Second?
Who got the second?
What was the raise?
Sandra?
All those in favor of recommending
Give him
Article
first.
G, please raise your hand. There's 9 of us recommended that.
I make a motion to recommend Article H as written, which appropriates the sum of $20,000 to be added to the previously established revaluation capital reserve fund.
So I think I recommended no on this last year, and I think that this got voted down at town meeting, and the reasoning is that this is an expense that we have coming up in 3 years or something like that, and maybe we don't take the money from people now. Yeah, we're gonna have to take it in 3 years, but
What would it be though? How much is the value would you need though? Is this just trying to put 20,000?
yeah. It's like take a few each year.
It's just
Right.
proportion out so that way we're not hit with like
But
a
are we-
large
There's a
bill.
tax
there anything
cap,
in
you
the
can't
fund?
take it
Are we getting interest on this 20,000?
It's not gonna beat inflation.
Real little.
Yeah,
Right.
We get interest, but.
Right, so if we take the 20 grand now, it
True.
sits in a almost no interest bearing account, and the value of that goes down versus we could
Plus
just take the
inflation's eating
20,000.
into it,
We
right?
could take the 20,000 in 3 years when it's worth less, essentially. And the taxpayers of this town can hold on to their 20 grand for 3 years and they can maybe invest it and make some.
And then if the warrant article's voted down, what are you gonna do?
It's
Because you can't take it out of the budget.
Because you have to, yeah.
What?
It's 109,000 the year you do your certification
Yeah.
year, so that would be a big hit, and
Yep.
this kind of levels the tax impact.
Yeah.
And what if the warrant
So the
article's voted down?
20,000 is every
Then you
year
don't
to
know.
offset 100,000 when
Yes,
you do
ma'am.
it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, ma'am.
That
Yeah.
makes sense. Like it does for the trucks and everything else that we spend
Except
on.
for the fact that
Is
we're
there
taking
anything in
money
the-
from people and it's not generating any interest, it's just sitting there. You're sticking it under the mattress and it's losing value.
I agree with
In
you.
an
there. Is there any-
inflationary period, it's not a good idea to just stash cash away.
So why do
Is there
we do it
anything
with
in
the other
there
ones?
now, the fund?
30,000 from interest.
Okay, so let's just vote on it.
I don't have someone for a second.
Oh,
I'll second.
all those in favor of recommending Article H as written, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 approved. All those who oppose it? 2 opposed. 3 opposed, sorry. Oh, all right. I.
I make a motion to recommend Article I as written, which is raise and appropriate the sum of $10,000 to be added to invasive species prevention and eradication removal expendable trust fund.
I'll second.
All those in favor of Article I as written, please raise your hand. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All those opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4 opposed.
Make a motion to recommend Article J as written, to see if the town will raise and appropriate $40,000 for the purpose of purchasing necessary fuels, supplies, equipment, and maintenance to run the ambulance billing services.
Second.
All those in favor of Article J, recommending Article J as written, please raise your hand. It's everybody on the committee, 9.
I make a motion to recommend Article K as written, which is to vote and establish a police technology equipment expendable trust fund for the purchase and major repairs of technology equipment for police department.
Second.
All those in favor of recommending Article K as written, please raise your hand. And that's everybody on the board.
I also would recommend at deliberative session, the possibility of amending that and just taking the word major out of there for major repairs of technology, just in case it limits you. Don't be more specific and restrictive. Well, because you see the same thing with the invasive species fund, right? They thought that it applied to all the water in Nottingham, but it only said lakes and ponds, and you can't use it for rivers or streams. So you gotta be careful, because
Skip it.
whatever you write in this one,
Nobody
it
recommended
restricts the
that.
fund forever.
So then we'll go straight to Article M.
The selectmen can take it out, but would that change anyone's vote if we took out major?
Wouldn't change my.
It wouldn't change my vote.
No, I think it's a good idea.
Do we wanna do we wanna just revote real quick? Would people be okay if we took the word major out, so it just says any repair, you know?
No, I'm good with
I'm
that.
good with what we have, if everybody else is.
As long as it doesn't limit them to purchase something in the future, that's, I mean, that's the issue, right?
Less limiting.
So I'm gonna put in the minutes, consensus was okay to take out the word major.
Yes,
Okay, board to take out major.
Yep. All right, so we skip Article L.
Yep.
Yeah,
Go to Article M.
put that in. They like the blank checkbook, they don't like doing their job, they get tough. It was too tough this year.
All right.
All right. Article M.
I make
So that, it's,
Hold on, we're just
So it
focusing on Article
essentially-
M, because we don't have to do anything for Article L. Let's move on to Article M.
So I make a motion
select
to
board.
recommend Article M, to raise and appropriate $40,000, in order to contract with a property management firm to make repairs to facilities as needed according to priority as determined, okay. So this is the one that, so,
you're gonna make wording changes to
Yeah, I
this at a
think I'm
minimum,
okay
right?
with it, as long as the wording is changed in there,
well,
I'm fine with it.
so.
We get to vote on it the way it is, though.
What's that?
We have to
We
vote
can
on it the way it is.
is.
Oh.
So I made the recommendation.
All right.
Is there
I make a
second?
recommendation that we don't,
Well,
Well, we
Recommend.
have
let's have a
one,
We have to-
discussion, so
Okay.
I made the
I'll
motion.
second.
alright.
And I just have a question for the town administrator, is how would you interpret property management firm?
Yeah, before I answer the question, who seconded?
I did.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
It's very vague.
I think that is the,
That's the crux.
yeah, that's the crux of the whole thing. I think, the people who petitioned the article are gonna have to explain it at the deliberative session.
Property management can be like landscaping, outdoors too, it can't, okay? I see it all the time, landscapes are probably, property management is more professional wording, you know?
Ours is property maintenance,
Right.
so.
So it's just not inside stuff.
Yeah.
Could be mowing the Marston
And
property, Tom.
yep.
Huh?
I think the intention is more like maintenance service.
Yeah.
Right.
It sounds to
Still
me like
maintenance
But
the,
that
though,
could,
even
it's so
outside,
vague.
yeah.
That's so vague.
That's like maintenance, it's even outside.
it sounds to me like the intention is to remove the discretion from the select board and put a third independent party in charge of the maintenance, of selecting what is to
Yeah,
be
like
expended
that,
on
but
what.
I kinda.
Because that's kind of what you That's why you would hire a property management firm. It doesn't say a maintenance person, it says a management.
That is,
We've already said, the wording is good.
I'm passing on it.
Petitioner understands what our concern was about it and is going to present the change recommendation at the
Do you think it's just gonna end up basically being a clone of Article B for $90,000 for building maintenance? Okay. I mean, what would the difference be?
I think Michael or Jeffrey said it earlier, it's like having that handyman capability, right? Like making sure that somebody can take care of the lights and the pipes and the toilets and all that stuff.
Contracted
Just for
handyman
one-
service.
That's
That's
so
a
you-
one-year contract.
So it's like having somebody that you call to say, hey, we got an issue, and then they hire somebody to come do it.
Yeah, and there would have to be some kind of a process whereby, there's some kind of a process where Courtney has some.
Sounds like a lot of money.
She submits.
Right, take a lot of money.
And then a request, yeah, right. And the town administrator certainly owns the.
I disagree too.
See, we agree on something.
Okay.
Yeah, we agree on a couple.
Yeah, a couple of things.
All right, well, that'll be
Article M.
interesting.
What do we, did we?
So
somebody
we
make
had a motion and a second, so
And the motion is to approve it as written?
To recommend as.
To recommend it
To
as
recommend
written?
as written.
So I'm gonna recommend no, because
Wait,
as
wait.
written, it's not.
I know you are, but we have to vote for it first,
we have
so
to vote.
all those in favor of recommending Article M as written, please raise your hand. All those against Article M as written, please raise your hand. All those abstained, please raise your hand.
I'm gonna abstain.
Thank you. All right, 2 abstentions.
So do we need to redo it, or do you want?
No, we
No,
just.
'cause
Which, it's
Not
just on
recommended.
there, do not recommend. And then Article N. Oh, that, nobody's on there, they don't,
So we skip N.
skip O and skip
So
P.
O and P, so I'll make a motion to not recommend O.
Can we have everything in a positive and then? it will
No,
be-
every year at Budget Committee, one of them has to be a negative motion, just for the
Yeah,
confusion.
we can make a negative motion.
Yeah.
We can make them.
Yep,
Yeah, I understand you can,
That's the way we do it here.
Everything in
Dress right
positive
dress.
and
we have to do it
voting
at least
down.
once.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I'll second that motion.
So John Decker moved not to recommend.
Right.
Yes.
If I was paying attention, I would have not recommended it.
Article O, and it was seconded by Tom?
Yes. All right, all those in favor of not recommending Article O, please raise your hand. That's everybody on the board.
Okay.
That was everybody, right?
Yes, ma'am.
See, we
And
agreed on that
I'll
one too.
make a motion to not recommend Article P.
Second.
Thank you, Tom. All those in favor of not recommending Article P, please raise your hand. And that's everybody on the board.
John, do we need to go back and clarify that negative motion on M?
On M.
If John didn't catch it for the
It'll just
minutes?
be not passed.
We not recommended it.
Yeah.
Because it was a,
Yeah, not
Yeah,
recommended. 2 abstentions and abstains. Abstains.
because that's what it'll actually
I
say.
just said, there was discussion on what property management firm means, vote 072, this was not recommended.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. You did it. They did it. Y'all did it.
That's not, all right, it's only 9:30.
All right, does anybody have any parting thoughts? for the
Yeah, what are we
committee?
doing on Thursday?
Cool.
Is there anything we need to prepare, things we're waiting on?
You guys got the binders, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so
I think,
we're still waiting for some,
who was here last time for the school board?
Tim and the,
Sue.
Sue.
She took really good
seen
notes.
the binder?
Okay.
That's right
I didn't
there.
follow up with her, but if anyone's gonna have.
Yeah, we have the names
anything
on
to
them.
follow up with, she's the one who wrote everything down to give to the school board, so.
Okay.
Not putting it on her, but I didn't write down near as much as
We
what she
have
wrote
a
down.
Sure.
special meeting tomorrow to do we haven't voted on anything yet.
And you have a new warrant article.
She wrote a lot of stuff down, yeah, so.
Carol, you guys have a new warrant article too.
Yes, I'm well aware.
Okay. Also, are you gonna if Sue took the notes, are we gonna get the meeting minutes from that?
She
So
is
that we
going
can,
to give them to Kelly to give to.
all right, great, because
Okay.
if we don't approve those at the next
I don't
meeting,
know
it
that
might be a
you'll
while.
have them.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, if anybody doesn't have any parting thoughts for everybody,
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
all right,
That's a good thought.
All in favor?
favor?
Yes.
We agree on something.
Here we go.
and awesome.
Always at the end, we agree.
Thursday night at 7 o'clock, everybody.
No, we just voted on a bunch of things.
Oh, yeah.
The same.
No, I already did. I'm just clean, I might as well sit here and clean out my,
See, tax cap's great, you don't gotta be here till midnight, right?
I feel like 8,000. It's just too hot.
For what?
Like,
Well, why don't you say something?
Yeah, ah. Let's go back, hang it.
Can't now, can it deliberative?
no, I can't.
I mean, it's all or nothing, really.
I carry my time.
Because if you mow it, if you mow and fertilize it, then you gotta.
I don't wanna do all of it,
Yeah.
because clearly people care enough about it to like spend